To some tricky questions.
Oh, tricky ones.
Yep.
Excellent. So I met recently in a cafe. Sorry about we've gone live right when the guy next door has turned up to do the lawns. So we're just going to work with what is, right? You and I met recently in a cafe, and we were talking about the abhorrent and frightening state of the world. We're on Friday, the 20th of March, 2026 at the moment, aren't we? And it'd be about midday, wouldn't
So,
it?
don't ask a
Don't
rural
know.
person.
Okay, a rural person, and you do live in a lovely remote rural setting, right?
I actually live in the coldest habitable place in Australia,
Wow.
which is Briona and Lyowini. So the week I moved into my house, it was minus 15.6 degrees.
Jesus, I think we're
And that's another story that blew apart all the water connections, of course. But
same. That happened down here at
I
-5.
love it up there. I love the isolation, the ability to think without the influence of other people and society.
And that's something that you've pursued as a discipline all around the world, that you are propagating that idea to people all around the world, because you are, from our conversation in the cafe, correct me if I'm wrong, a very big adherent of that your mind, you need to put mind over matter.
Well, since 19, I've been practicing and teaching meditation. So, 50 something years. And, you do learn something, accidentally even. And that means that mind is everything. Everything happens inside your head. The external situation, yes, it does have influence, of course, but it doesn't stop you from having your own thoughts inside your head and controlling your thinking.
So what about if you're a child in a genocide and the war is happening and you're literally, are you still able to just think your way around the catastrophe that's happening to people all over the world right now?
So this is your first tricky question. That's good. No, everyone's got a different capacity. I'm only giving my own example, and not everyone can dedicate their lives to meditation for 50 odd years. That's just not normal. So there's some benefit of doing that.
And the benefits for you have been that you found a greater peace no matter what's happening in the outside world.
Well, it means that I can control my thinking. So situations have less impact. They don't have no impact. But then I put everything in context, and when I put everything in context, everything seems to settle down. And one of the biggest realizations I've had in the last few months is the documentaries done on space by, is it Brian Cox? Dr. Brian
Professor
Cox?
Brian Cox.
Yeah, wow. And there was a picture of the Earth flying around the universe, or our solar system, and it's a little rock, and we're all on that playing our stupid frickin' games.
Dramas and games out,
and thinking they're
power
big
struggles.
deal.
Yep.
So you pan back and go, shit, my conversation, my situation
is irrelevant in history. Yep.
Yeah. So knowledge is a very useful thing, and you can use it to make your life better.
So we were having a heated agreement, as the old witticism goes, about what we could only call dog shit state of the world, if you wanted to put it like that, or the abhorrent state of the world for so many people in it due to non-stop wars over oil and power struggles, whether they be religious or oil-based or resource grabs or whatever. And we then got onto the subject of where you'd lived on the planet, which was an astonishing array, and actually lived, not travelled, an astonishing array of continents and places. Do you want to just rattle off some of the places you've been and roughly how long? Well, indulge me.
Yeah, no, the problem is remembering.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Look, I've lived in every continent. Yeah, South America, Chile, and basically I travelled around because I did voluntary work. So I was building museums and meditation rooms and etc. So I got a chance to actually live and connect with people there in a real way. Tourism, you can't, it's impossible. So yeah, it was definitely it was a very big learning experience, because you get to meet different cultures, Africans, Chinese, Russians, everything that you think is different. But when you find out that actually everyone's the same, everyone has the experience of sorrow, happiness, anxiety, all those things. They're not particularly specific to any culture or continent. Humans are humans. So that's my experience of being overseas, is that it just broadens your perspective. Just like seeing the solar system broadens your whole view of life.
Could you
Becomes very
argue
big.
that the fact that we're in a first world democracy with relatively free of war, unless you count the war on the poverty-stricken and Aboriginals, unless you count that war, those non-stop wars on the poor and the sick and the dispossessed, it's a function that you and I are actually in a first world place where we've even got a TV screen and clean running water and a flushing toilet, because I actually happened to take my two eldest children, the third one was meant to come and her father prevented that, 2 years ago to see Professor Brian Cox at the Sydney Opera House explaining the universe with massive projections from the Hubble telescope and the James Webb, with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra playing tunes. It was a mind-blowing experience, and that was their Christmas present, which of course Ian Little refused to let my daughter Madeline Little go, and she was 12 and it would have been a perfect time for her to go. But that didn't happen. So the point of it is, yes, I'm very aware of Professor Brian Cox, and it's mind-blowing that we can situate ourselves intellectually and otherwise as in relationship to the universe and the material facts of it in 21st century scientific terms. However, not everyone on the planet has the luxury of doing that because they're too busy trying to stop the genocide from killing their children, or the water from getting into the freezing cold tent after the genocide, etc., etc. We have a lot of extreme poverty, machetes, rapes, wars and murders going on, 55 of them going on all around the planet right now, roughly, and Israel and America have just started bombing the Middle East and the oil of their neighbours. So, with that in mind, we got talking about the situation at my instigation of how women are basically treated by everything from economic systems to religious systems to cultural mores and expectations, cultural systems of belief systems, whether they be economic, religious, or literally just cultural. And then I'm heard what I find is astonishing, in as much as it doesn't come out of very men's mouths very often, which is what I would call a correct appraisal, and now we've got a fly in here just to top it off, a correct appraisal of the international situation for women. And I find it's interesting that men listen to men talk about it to a higher level of authority than they might listen to a woman, and my evidence for that is that there's multiple recent university studies, particularly since second wave feminism, which confirm that even women will think that a woman has spoken longer when given the exact same script and the exact same amount of time to address a public audience. Then they survey the men and the women. It's a randomly allocated survey where they make sure that the control groups are properly matched in each time. And time again, even women will report that the woman dominant spoke longer and da-da-da. In this case, I'm going to stop right then because I have spoken for a good 2 minutes. That's my setup for asking you what you then said to me about what you've observed about the situation of women in the multiple various continents on the planet that you've actually lived in, not just travelled through. And you said?
Well, it's not too different in all the different continents. I mean, I'll give you experience of Japan. Japan's a very modern society, you know, technically, etc. But culturally, their attitude towards women is, I would say, slightly scary. I'd say it's worse than Australia, even though it's contained within society and they have their sort of ways of doing things, etc., and seemingly quite organised. But in actual fact, the suppression is pretty intense. And I'll give you an example that really illustrated it for me. Was I was doing a laser museum in Fukuyama.
You were setting up a laser museum. What year was this?
2003, 4. I've got no idea.
The reason I ask is because remember just before we were talking a little bit about Japan, and I said the fact is that men got Viagra in Japan before women got the pill, the contraceptive pill.
After that.
No, but I'm just asking because I want to throw that in here. It's a statement of fact that in Japan, men got access to Viagra via the government legalising it before females got access to the contraceptive pill. And we know that Viagra only came around in the 90s and the pill came out in the late 60s, which shows you a lot, doesn't it?
So my experience was because there was a shiatsu women's group that was associated with the meditation centre. So there were mainly women there doing the work and keeping the place going. And so we had a dinner when it finished, and their husbands came along, which was very interesting. So their husbands are, they're quite reserved, whereas the women are quite articulate and, alive and expansive. The men are very contained and
Not as verbal?
introvert.
Not as verbal?
No, they're introvert. So anyway, we had dinner and we're chatting, and I'm telling them about, some technical aspects of the museum to keep them happy. And then finally, we're eating, and Japanese cooking is fantastic.
Oh, you don't have to convince me.
I'm a vegetarian, so I've eaten all those meals everywhere, and Japan is pretty top.
It's
So
renowned
anyway-
for being the best in the world, right?
So anyway, we had the meal, and we finished the meal, and my normal practice was that they cooked, so I washed up. So after the meal, because it was sort of formal, the husbands were there, and it was a bit of carry on. So that's fine. I got up and did the washing, and when I got up and started doing the washing, the Japanese guys, they all looked over at me, and seriously, their jaws dropped, and what do you mean shocked
that you were going to help.
doing the washing up. And I thought, geez, you're advanced society, but man, you're a long way behind. Compare that to my upbringing, Hungarian and Germans. Dad washed up every evening.
Amazing.
Every
Great.
freaking evening.
But don't you think that's what you would, so my proposition there is that if people honestly respected, I'll start that again. One of the things I used to, mantras I constantly inculcated into my own children was, love is as love does. There are markers of love. You can tell when people love you because they listen to you properly. They don't just nod and pretend, or you matter to them emotionally and mentally. You listen to them, and if they respect you, even if there's an argument, they'll play clean. They'll play the ball, not you. They play the woman and the man, not the ball. And love is respect. If you don't have any love, if there's no foundation of respect, and respect also has the RES for respect, but it's got reciprocity. There's an innate. My point of it is there is an innate implication amongst people who treat each other kindly around the world that there is some type of reciprocity, that if you do the cooking, they might do the cleaning, and that if
all this intellectualization about respect and stuff
between the genders,
hang on, it should just be bloody normal.
that's what you'd think.
It's normal in my family. It's normal in the people that I hang around with. This weird behaviour of putting women down and the domestic violence thing, that doesn't enter my world. I can't understand how a male can think a female is less. Let me tell you, I went to university and did paleontology and zoology. So the first fact is women are stronger than men.
Physically?
Sounds controversial.
Hang on, no, physically, emotionally?
It sounds controversial, but my point is biology does not lie. Biology, nature, the female carries the child. Why? Because she's the strongest. She's looking after two. And who does all the teaching after the baby's born? Not the father, the mother. So nature gives the stamp to females to be the strongest. Male don't like that because they've got testosterone and they think that they're wonderful. So, yeah, to me it's a biological, sensible, normal thing that women and men are equal.
So what have you seen? And just, we know that we've got a doggy in the background, and we're just going to work with the doggy moving around. It's okay, buddy. I don't know. Can we open the? Am I able to just quickly open the window, because maybe he's getting a bit hot now? The noise has stopped. Yeah. So I might just do that. Maybe you could just slide it up. I'll just show people where we're at this point in time. Sorry about it. Yeah, there is that. You just and you can slide the other one back your way as well.
That's plenty.
Oh, okay. You a bit cold?
Me? I don't know what cold is. I live at Briona.
That's what it's with you.
Hey, Lizzie's a good fellow. Would you go and breathe the air?
Yeah. So we were talking about how it seems to be that no matter what continent you lived on, there was a persistence of a distinct cleavage in the difference between how men treated men and how men treat women with respect to everything from sexuality to morality and morality related to sexuality, and with respect to finances and who controls them, and budgets made by economies and religious beliefs, like in no particular order, everything to do with humanity. And you said, what did you say? Because I don't want to verbal you.
But what's the question?
The question was, what did you have to say about that? Because when I remember you listening to you, I was thinking, wow, isn't it incredible that a man is finally noticing what so many of the women around them... Well, you were talking about it.
No,
most
the
of them
only
don't.
one perhaps you've spoken to, but I tell you, all my friends, all my associates, they don't have that attitude. Oh! Stop!
Is there something we can just holding on
Let
for a
him
moment?
out.
Is there something? He's not going to run on the road, is he?
But you said there's fences.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, could he jump them? Like, he's not going to jump the front,
No.
is he? Okay.
Let's see what
Just
happens.
hold that thought for a moment. So you can keep going, just hold that for some you keep rolling with that. Roll with what you were saying, because I think you're still up there and...
Oh.
Well,
I did a museum in Africa, in Nairobi actually,
Yep.
and so the whole thing with African men and women, that's pretty bad. It's pretty, it's not a good word, but primitive, you know, they're just, and I have to compare that to when I lived in Scandinavia and so on, that their attitudes there are just totally different. There's no feeling of, you know, males are, you know, better or stronger or etc. I mean, you know, Finland, Scandinavia, they've had female prime ministers. You know, it's a different world, and yeah, to go there is very liberating because people are just people. It's not, you know, women and men. It's people. So I think that's, for me, that's been the distinguishing point and realization that actually we're all people. And once you make that duality or that division of male and female, lots of problems arise. But if you just consider another person to be another being, another soul, another entity, all that other stuff disappears, all that cultural stuff that we've been, you know, ingrained with since babyhood, blue for boys, pink for girls, you know, all that sort of conditioning, it's so strong. I had a really powerful realization when I had to speak to at my mother's funeral. So we had it just in where we lived, and lots of people came and etc. And I stood up, and I don't know whether Mum possessed me or whatever, but I just felt all through my life the influence of the mother. And I thought, me as a person and all my values and all my views of the world have actually been molded by my mother. And I was really thankful for that because she was a beautiful person. My father was too, but Mum had a bigger influence. And so I say once again, you know, in society, women have a more elevated position, I'm afraid to say, boys. We should be in the background supporting the women, bearing children, trying to get through a male-dominated society. What the hell are we doing? What's advanced society when they think that females are less? I mean, gosh, that's pretty primitive thinking.
Now,
Primitive in the bad way.
on that, I put it to you that I have a very large problem with half of the population walking around with a bag over their head to erase their entity. And I've heard both sides of the so-called culturally relative argument. Oh no, we want to have the bags over our heads. It makes us safer from all those raping males, as if the women need to have the bags over their heads so that they don't provoke. It's the whole thing of look what you made me do. Hang on, just going somewhere with that. But you and I might, but it seems that a whole hell of a lot of people on the rest of the planet, from Africa where rape and machetes and wars, I don't see many women of the 55 wars right now running on the planet. I don't see many women running and making those wars. I don't see them raping and macheteing people. I don't see them butchering.
What's the point though?
Well, how do you figure it is that, given we have the clear evidence that in so many places, as you said, Africa. I haven't lived in Papua New Guinea. I certainly haven't lived all over the world where you have. I'm just going to shut that door. Working with what is here, and we've had the doggy and the people next door with their lawnmower, etc. Why do you think that the misogyny and the patriarchy are so persistent across so many different cultures? Because there was a date and a time when
I
women.
can tell you the answer now without
Okay,
progressing
go for
any
it.
further.
Yep.
I believe it's testosterone. And I've only sort of figured that out in the last little while. Being 71, you know, my testosterone levels are a lot less than they were 10 years ago. And consequently, my driving is slower, my patience increases, etc. So that's just my example. I have a friend who transgendered recently, and you know, knowing them as a male, I've worked with them, gardening, all sorts of stuff. You know, great person. When became a
He became
woman,
a she.
yeah, when he became a she, estrogen, you know, blah, all those
Estrogen
sort of
treatment,
things. His personality has changed so, even more so. He was a very gentle person anyway, but now he's become quite very gentle and not easily provoked into reacting. And you know, he's also 65 or whatever, she's also 65, but there's been a big change in me since recognizing that, and also practically lower levels, my behavior is different. Consequently, what do I notice? Young boys in utes are the
with P-plates.
biggest danger up here. I've had them run into me. I've had all sorts of behavior. They don't think it's a problem to run into someone. Oh, it's just bad luck. You know, I'm brought from a different society than that. So the female perspective also has become worse.
Hang on, let's just qualify a few things that we're talking about here before we go on to that hypothesis you've just put, because I don't know what the female thing is, and I'm sure you're going to tell me.
It's not a hypothesis; it's my experience.
Okay, all right. So let's just clean up or qualify a few of the terms that we're referring to, because I was hoping we could take a quick tour at some point in this interview around what you've observed on different continents, because I haven't heard how many continents you've actually lived on, and I believe that it's most of them, except Antarctica and maybe the Arctic. And so apart from covering off all the radically different places you've lived and the persistence of this idea that women are less than men in everything from the way that they are treated with violence by men towards them, or rape by men towards them, or the supposition that they are there to do the cooking, the cleaning, the fucking, and shut up and be told what to do, and if they speak up they're hit, particularly when we look at Afghanistan under the Taliban, and we're live, and under the entire Middle East, and under Africa, and so many violent places. We had the petrol thrown over women through India and Pakistan, and of course that was then exported down into Fiji when a lot of the Indians moved to Fiji. There's a whole lot of evidence for how men are absolutely atrocious to women, and it didn't always, when you look at the evidence according to Yuval Noah Harari, the war historian whose particularly famous book called Sapiens traced how many female gods there were until 9,000 years ago, and they were everywhere. Ethiopian river goddesses, Viking girl gods, Aboriginal culture where I come from in Australia had Hawkesbury River girl gods for fishing, and the girl gods died, Hindus, and the girl gods about 9,000 years ago vanished, and we've got monotheism where there's a male up the top of the religious order.
I disagree with that. I've studied history somewhat. 9,000 years ago, the female deities did not disappear. Even today, Kali, Durga, just alone in India, they're still worshipped like crazy.
Yes, and also I'm talking generally because, of course, Egypt only 2,000 years ago with Isis and other goddesses. My point of it is that the world on the whole is a very violent picture towards women, and the goddesses have diminished radically in their numbers all over the planet. We've got evidence for that. And women, out of the 196 nations on earth right now that call themselves nations, only 6 of them are headed by a female head of state. So that's a lot when we're 50% of the population to have only 6 nations led by a female. So I want you to talk to me, not just about our ideas of why, and I agree with you on testosterone, but that's by the by whether I agree or not. We can't prove it at this point, and I'd like to be able
Well, you
to.
can if you have testosterone in your system.
Yes, but then that would still only account for my relative change in behaviour compared to somebody else's personality's relative change in behaviour. But my point of it is, we're not going to we're not going to conduct. No one will be conducting an experiment on the planet where we go around and inject every single female and male with the opposite hormones to their gender and then see what happens. So meanwhile, we do know that females were riding into battle in Viking culture. They were riding in, according to the legend of Muhammad. He was flanked by women, four each side of him, on horseback, wielding swords in the battle to establish Islam.
The point?
So the point of it being, I would like you to tell me about some of the differences that you've seen that are the same, the differences between the genders that you see persist across all of the continents.
Well, I gave you
That's the
my
cooking
experience-
example.
I gave you my experience of Japan as a starter, and that was because it was so obvious and clinical. There are the boys, you're doing washing up, and they think, what the hell are you doing washing up?
It's lower than us.
Yeah, so same with India. I mean, I lived in India for years and years and years.
What did you see there?
Well, same thing, females.
Unpaid labour.
There's the, the show of, respect, etc. When it comes down to it, the blokes make the decisions. So
And the
also
women do the unpaid labour and the cleaning up, and they get told what to do. Is that generally true from continent to continent? The unpaid labour?
Yeah, I don't know about it. I mean, I was unpaid labour, so...
No, I mean in the household and in the economy, because if the men control the budgets of the economies and where the war spend goes and where the money of the...
But actually in society, the women control the household funds.
In which cultures did that happen?
Indian, European,
Where else?
African, the women were business. That's the interesting thing, is you got the males that just, the front of house sort of dudes and look important, but the women do all the work.
I know they do all the work.
Hang on, whoa. I know you do. Let me finish before you get too excited. So women are involved in business. So when I was doing the museums, I had to do various business things, had sculptures made and so on. It was always with women. When I was in New Zealand doing some workshops with Shell and ANZ, the Maori women were fantastic. God, I loved them. They were strong. They did their job really efficiently. They were strong, but they had that loveful aspect. That's not to say, no males are like that, but all the hotels, all the places had women there for a reason. Now I see the ABC, so many women presenters. Some people might react, I think it's fantastic. It's such a different vibration when it's estrogen and not testosterone. So what's the world situations? Guys with guns killing people. And that's the force. That's why women, they're not going to do that, unless they get caught up in that world, but that's not how they react. That's not how they operate. Women talk about things and have a discussion and, okay, we can do this. It doesn't always work. Then, nothing's perfect. But in comparison to the males, to get a gun out and shoot someone, see the difference on TV between an American show and an English show with police. I don't know how many times I've watched some American thing, bust the door down and start shooting. Mm-hmm. That's their whole mentality is like that. So,
but that's cultural, right?
Yeah, that's a conditioning in every society that males are superior because they're stronger. Rubbish. Gorillas, yeah, but the gorilla mother brings up the children. What's the point of having a father with no kids? The society won't last very long.
On that point, one of the points that you I always muck up his name, Yuval Noah Harari makes in his book Sapiens is roughly about 160 pages in, if my memory serves me well, is around the idea that he doesn't quite understand why the human social sphere globally doesn't model the behaviour of the matriarchy of the bonobos, where they are where 30 women will jump on a man at the first sign of aggression towards any female in their pack, and where they actually are highly not monogamous, the opposite to monogamous, polygamous, polygamous. They're root rats, and they have sexual and emotional bonds that are created between each other and between males. But the thing that they do is that they operate as a pack to shut down the first sign of
They have to.
aggression. Yes, but he then used the model of, given that we descended from apes, he then used the model of gorillas, where a dominant male comes in, kills the other alpha male who was controlling a harem of female gorillas, kills the children and the offspring of the other male, and then goes about inseminating. Oh, like a lot of men in place. I don't see 9 husbands
What's
anywhere.
The point? Hang on.
Well, so given that, if you just go with the argument which the apes who are running America, all male at the moment, are going, which is might is right, and that basically if your testosterone confers on you a superior physical capability to dominate and rape, because of course rape is the first tool, pun intended, of war, is raping the raping into submission and into degradation females. The point of it being that I couldn't help but think how stupid it was, how remiss it was, what an oversight it was of this world famous academic. He's very happy. He's gay with his husband, lives on a kibbutz in Israel, and is a lauded war historian. So when he wrote a book about what we know about war history, females were throughout war, and he went to speculate about how it ever got so bad that it has under misogyny and patriarchy for women. That's where I'm coming from. We haven't read the same book. I'll give it to you later. It's a great read. My point of it is that I found it astonishing, his lack of his oversight, if you like, that fly's persistent like me. The point of it being, I found it astonishing that he didn't make the connection that 9,000 years ago, roughly, is when agriculture came in, and instead of sitting around a fire at night and operating in tribes where there was gender divisions of labour, men would go and do these things, women would go and do another, but at night time people lived in a group of, mainly, according to historians, between 50 to 150 human beings, because that's about as much as the mind can handle with all the associations of relativity of each human that they've got to deal with. Oh, you're such and such as cousin, and you're such and such as grandparent, and the entire human sphere. Historically, when we were tribal and lived in tribes around a fire at night, like 65,000 years of Aboriginals in Australia, that they could keep an eye on each other, this is my theory, because they weren't divided like they were once agricultural came along. They weren't divided when they settled down onto one piece of land and then went into houses. At houses, no one can see what's going on behind the scenes. And in fact, women all over the world, including me, will report, particularly on Q&A, the ABC TV series 5 years ago with Dr. Ann Summers, 4 years ago, women will report in 2022, women report a massive spike in the rate of aggression towards them by a male partner once they become pregnant, because they're dependent. This is what women report, and this is what the statistics report, that men who previously passed themselves off as a relatively decent male mate, and this is what my experience was as well, became far more abusive to them once they realised that the woman was now pregnant and therefore laden and therefore dependent for the early years of her child's life. I found it astonishing, and I hope that by some miracle, whether I'm dead or alive, that Noah Yuval Harari might hear this, particularly if you're Jordan B. Peterson, put it around. I'd like to see an argument between you two. I know who'd win. The point of it being, it's not about winning, is it? Because everyone's losing in this scenario, except men, of course, because in most places on earth they do get to come home, their food is made, they do get a root, whether the woman wants to or not, and whether the woman orgasms or not, and they do get to control the way that their life runs, and they get to go out and hang out with other men and shoot people and machete people and rape them and feel powerful.
Not everyone does that.
No, but in the majority of places where the 55 wars are raging right now, I don't see the women and children doing that. So when Israel said
It's historical fact. We know that, women don't rape men that often. It's happened occasionally, and sometimes you think, how could that bloody
Exactly.
happen? But anyway, so it's a well-known fact that, jails are full of rapists and murderers, and they're men.
Yeah.
Mostly men.
And so putting it down to testosterone, as you do, and I would absolutely have to concur. In fact, 35 years ago, news article came on the Australian reputable sources, and it was about a British academic who was a man, happened to be, and he said, why are we not talking about the elephant in the room here? We're talking constantly about wars and economics and religion. We haven't addressed the most fundamental thing, which is that women aren't doing this, men are. It's not humanity who's warring and killing and raping. It's half of them. And he said, so why aren't we looking at what it takes to build, for example, a Professor Brian Cox, go with me for a minute, a Professor Brian Cox versus a piece of dog shit misogynist like Andrew Tate? Why aren't we looking at what creates...
Don't mention his name.
Oh, no, I can't. I would kill him if I could. Andrew Tate, you got it from me. If I find you, you're fucking necked. Or with a gun, hopefully a spear through the heart. No, anyway, you get the point. There's a lot of people out there who don't need to be told that women are good for fuckbags, who need to be prostituted. I mean, he's a piece of dog shit. And he got free rein into Donald Trump's, he got lifted out of you.
Trump.
Yeah,
don't mention him.
No, you know what I'm saying. These people are running the world. They're running the world. Martin, they're running the world.
That's why all your jumping up and down and being concerned about things, it's valid on one level, but on the realistic level, these bastards with guns, bombs, planes, women aren't going to do anything. Men, they won't.
Yeah, they don't have the power, and they're too busy bringing up baby and running the house. But we also know, because of that anyone who's strenuously involved, really realistically, not in their mind, but practically involved in rolling out not-for-profit funding of elevating all people around the third world out of the misery of poverty and no clean running water or toilets or food that's safe and contaminated dirty water around the world, killing little babies. They are focusing their loans only on females, because when the female gets the money, she will put it into chickens, cows, her family, education, and the community will grow. Whereas when, yes, well, hang on.
So what's the question?
So hang on, and we understand that if men get donated, they are often likely to be able to go and get pissed, get a tattoo and get a hooker. Or if they are a kind man, bring up their children and do the same thing that a woman would do. The question really is how many places you've seen. I wanted to ask you about the specifics of what you saw happen between the genders as a baseline level of a measurement of the lack of respect, the subordination is the word that's proper,
right,
of women.
Okay, so first thing is, because I have a very strong vibration of looking after women, equality, etc., people don't try that shit with me. They don't.
I imagine.
Because I won't allow it. I'm not going to listen to some idiot talking about how women are less or whatever. You think you're actually digging your own grave, mate. You're just an idiot. If anyone thinks that just because of gender, people are less, come on. What? Einstein knew, everyone knows we are all equal. And that attitude of putting people down, that's what creates this vibration.
But you were full of testosterone at a young age, and you didn't do that. What's my guess I'm saying there?
My mother.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of very lovely, loving mothers in the third world whose children then go out, because of the cultural belief systems around them, to go and rape and murder and do what they want in war without...
I don't know the statistics. I just know my European background and all those people that have grown up in that environment, that attitude of negativity to females, it does not exist. I've got Hungarian and German relatives, cousins and so on. It's such a beautiful family scene. What can I say? I mean, other people don't experience it, so I feel sorry for that. But the reality is that many people have beautiful households. They all immigrated from Europe, but then they sort of collected together, and so Hungarians, Germans, birds of a feather flock together. And it was such a beautiful, and I could see, that was my upbringing, that my cousin, who was a girl, is not put down or thought less of.
Yes, understand. And each household is different, though, of course. There was lots and lots of men raping and murdering and beating up women all around European nations for all of human history, and particularly in Australia, where 2 women a week almost are murdered on average by a man and not the other way around, and we're in an advanced democracy. So my point of it is, if we've got the idea that testosterone may or may not be causing all of these, the overwhelming majority of the abhorrent behaviour of males towards women around the planet, their rapaciousness, their murderousness, their wars, their control of the economic system and of religious systems in no particular order, misogyny and, and patriarchy, and what came first, the chicken or the egg, and who cares, because what are we going to do about it? And my thesis that I put to you, or at least I tried to, and correct me if I'm wrong, whether you remember me saying this, is that now that we're a quarter of the way into the 21st century, and now that when the very minute I was born in 1970, 3 years prior, the contraceptive pill became available to only wealthy women in the first world who could get it. And not everyone could get it, and it didn't work for everybody, like me, for example. Didn't agree with me. Had to use a diaphragm and other methods. The point of it being that now we are at the stage in 2026 where we have 4 inoculations against sperm available by injection in our arms each year. And we have evidence that women in the third world come in to get their children immunised against diphtheria, polio, tetanus.
Question?
And when they're there, we're live, and when they're there, they ask, after their children are immunised, where's my shot? And the doctor says, what do you mean you're immunised? No, when I go back home, he's just going to ejaculate another 16 years of unpaid labour into me, whether I like it or not. Can you give me the contraceptive pill? Now, women are crying out around the world to be immunised against male sperm so that they don't have to be the unpaid beasts of burden that they have been. If we were looking at diminishing the population of the planet, because it's obviously 8 billion and counting is getting stupid, and look at the degradation of the environment holistically for all animal species, and you care about other animals, I know you do, a lot of us do.
Vegetarians generally do.
Yes, you're a vegetarian.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Only for 50 odd years.
So with your deep empathy for other creatures and with your clear vision, your clairvoyance on what's actually happening to the degradation of all life on Earth under this system of patriarchy and male rule, I forwarded that one practical solution, because I'm a solutions-oriented person, I forwarded that one practical solution might be to start with diminishing the population of the planet, because it would more importantly advance 50% of us into a position of relative education and wealth and some ability to climb out from underneath the domination, financially, religious, of men. So what's your idea on what can be done? Because we both conceded that we agree that we're going to hell in a handbasket.
To be honest,
and we're in the end days, right?
The question, what can be done?
What can be done?
Nothing. Not in terms of the world situation, but in terms of your personal situation, everything. If someone's really giving you a hard time and it's a horrible situation, you leave.
What, like if the police knock on your door and say, don't do YouTube videos about the people who abducted your children against international human rights law and family law? What about that?
Yeah,
well, hang on. I mean, where do I leave to again? A jail?
No, you won't be
a place where there's a bill of a place where there's a bill of rights to free speech, which there isn't in Australia, which is why these things are even on me, because they're all about use. Yeah, no. So what's your practical solution? You don't think there is one?
Yeah, I think there's a practical solution, but it starts with the self.
And so what is that?
If I'm not together, like so many situations, I'm not the only person that's had a hard time. Like I said before, I lost $500,000, I lost my farm, I lost everything. You could get depressed. And I did. For the first time in my life, I got depressed.
How bad? Hang on, just given that you know my situation and that most people watching this, if they don't know my situation, they've got a very good opportunity to see it because the narratives are all there for everyone to look at, which is why I keep getting knocked on the door by the police saying, you're not allowed to do that on a carriage service. I'm like, get fucked, I think I can because it's free speech. And like, you don't have that. No, you're going to jail. So my point of it is, given that we can't actually all just think or meditate our ways out of extreme long-term damage, do you believe that we...
It's not just thinking, there has to be understanding. And the first understanding is there's no difference between male and female. And I'll make this really cosmic and far out, but I believe in soul in a body. And consequently, male and female genders can be changed birth after birth. But people go, oh, yeah, blah, blah. You die, the soul doesn't die, it takes rebirth. So if you have karma with being a bad boy, you will be born as a girl and you'll be treated the same way so you can learn your lesson.
If that were not true, And respecting your right between both of us to disagree. Of course, I would never want to lose anyone's learned friendship or acquaintanceship over a disagreement on something about so fundamental as
ideas.
reincarnation, for example, which is pretty much what you just posited.
Yep.
Even though we could say, well, there's only really been, that many billion people on the planet before, and now we've got like 3 times as many as ever were alive. So how does the maths work on that?
But you see the whole story.
But leaving that aside for a moment, if it wasn't just a pathetic game of maths that I was reducing it to just then in my, to be fair to you, I'm just going to put that there. My point of it is, if you just park the idea of karma, which is highly speculative and highly...
Newton's third law of motion, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
That's
a fact.
Yes, but it does. That's physics. It doesn't necessarily work in emotions and human actions.
It does. It's energy. What's the difference between kicking someone up the bum and calling them a dead shit?
A big difference. The coccyx bone might be chipped.
Yeah, look, hang on. You're getting... The principle is that there's no difference between being physically abusive and mentally. And that's why the whole situation won't change until we change the way we think.
I'm going to go out on a limb about what you just said, and I haven't said this to you before, and you know that we've only known each other for 5 minutes. 3 times we've met? 3 times? So we don't know each other very well, and I've got no shame over this now that I've had the opportunity to grow up in a first world culture and work out that it's men doing it, not the other way around in the overwhelming majority of cases. My first sexual experience was that I was raped. And I was raped when I was 16, and so I thought I was a grown-up at 16. Oh, no, it was in broad daylight by a friend of a friend.
No,
so,
I'm not saying I don't care.
I'm not saying, oh, no, don't feel sorry for me or don't have empathy. What I'm saying is, oh, no, it got worse because I wasn't like... I mean, there's the horror of being raped by a family member or someone known to you who's telling you when you're a child, you better shut up because if you say anything, I'm going to kill your mother and I'm going to kill your sister and I'm going to kill your brother. And, like a lot of people I know were, male and female.
Because that's not real. That's
hang on, I'm
heavy.
telling you about... Well, sorry. Reality's too heavy.
No, your example is too heavy. We're doing an interview.
Okay.
And you're bringing up all your cases.
No.
Yes,
No, mine weren't severe compared to the... Hang on, wait up. Mine weren't severe compared to... on the scale of, and there's another question. Let's just park that for a moment because the idea that some intelligent people have said to me, which I find abhorrent, which is that there's basically no difference between scales of suffering, so that if you're suffering someone who's just left you for your best friend, you're in the same camp as a girl whose legs have been blown off by the Israeli army in Palestine and your family's just been... So there's... Wait, with respect,
no,
my point was, it's a setup. Hang on.
You're talking for ages.
Oh, it's a setup. If I could have finished, what I would have said was, given that I'm sure I will, and I'm willing to go live and let people criticise the fact that they're watching it while live.
Oh, it's interesting.
That they'll be the judge of that. The point of it being that given that I find abhorrent the idea that there is no sliding scale of suffering, that there's definitely a spectrum like the rainbow. There's pink, red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, violet. There's I'm having a bad hair day versus my limbs were just blown off and my family was butchered in front of me. It's fucking insulting, quite frankly, and I'm going to say that again. It's fucking insulting to think that all suffering is relative. And I had the highest trauma psychiatrist in Australia put that to me on a stand, and she was respected because she was the Associate Professor Carolyn Quadrio from UNSW, who said to me in 2017, oh, well, it's all relative though, Danielle, isn't it? And I thought, what a great title. We're in the family court and it's about my relatives. But no, because if you think that my suffering is the same as a woman who's just lost her children on a refugee boat and then was smashed against Christmas Island when the government left them. But there's definitely a spectrum of suffering. I get it. You can do that all you like, but that's a setup. It's a rigorous setup. It's a rigorous setup for the idea that many people would not be able to possibly understand what you mean, and you've given your life to the idea, and you've travelled the world and volunteered without pay in a lot of circumstances to teaching people meditation as a way to at least alleviate their suffering, their fundamental human suffering. So this is a big thing that I'm saying to you because it's a very huge thing you've devoted your life to.
I have to.
Yeah, oh dear, right at the crux. Yeah, okay. Can you call him? Oh, bugger, right at the crux. Watch your head.
Oh, I will.
Sorry, we're just pausing on that for a moment. We're cutting to the dahlias.
In. Come on.
What's ironic as well, Martin, is that the thing on the wall behind you was given to me by the piece of the turd who just who can't be criticised for giving my son away. Who can't be criticised for giving my son away, even though I've done it. She was throwing that out.
So
I said, "Well, that's nice. We're back." So you've given your life. You've given your life. It's a good bit of theatre. Miles on scene. You've given your life to setting up festivals around the world, and you have overwhelmingly not been paid for a lot of this work, and so you have, of course, found yourself with women who are donating their time and services not being paid either.
And men.
And men, but a lot of them being that you've worked all over the world with good-hearted people who are into the idea that the mind is where everything matters, and that this is where we can alleviate. We can't change the past, we can only work on the present and the future, and to do that we have to let go of our attachment to the essential drama of our narrative about our suffering. Would that be a fair supposition or not?
I think human beings are weird. Sometimes they take pride in that I've suffered more than you've suffered.
Yes, attachment to their suffering.
Oh, it's pathetic. Oh, sorry, but it is, it's another person's suffering. You should be empathising with it, not going, oh, my sorrow's more than yours. That's to me, it's not the right attitude. So the whole thing with humans is equality. Because now what we've got, Trumps and, males that are in these positions. They just push people around, create laws, etc., which have nothing to do with reality. Instead of having groups of people that include all the participants, like women should be 50%.
So my point of it is, since that's not the case, and since your theory is that the persistence of testosterone keeps allowing this, and testosterone's been around forever, so there's definitely been a change in the fact that there were hundreds of girl gods thousands of years ago everywhere, and now there's not, and there were matriarchies, and now there's not. So something's changed that would actually be the case in the first place, because we all had testosterone, we always had estrogen.
There's a thing called entropy.
I know what it is. We know what it is. It's the
hang on, you get to explain your thing.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Entropy means you start off in an ordered way and tend towards chaos. So that's the principle that, the male-female relationship was balanced in the past, but it's become disturbed, and finally you end up with chaos. And so chaos means the guy with the gun wins. However,
entropy actually just means that all things that are alive decay over time. And that there's no necessary relationship whatsoever between human culture being dominated by one gender and the other. There isn't any necessary relationship. See, I'm going somewhere here, just hang on a tick. Jordan B. Peterson, someone you're probably not familiar with. Tell me if you are. No. Right. He's got a very large international following because he seems to be quite hung up on the idea that the natural order of, and remember how selection over evolution, when they say it's survival of the fittest, they don't mean the fittest and the strongest. They mean whatever biological mechanism fitted that particular area at that time. So if you were growing as a piece of moss on a rock that had lots of light, you grew differently to a piece of moss that...
I did biology at university.
Yeah, so I'm saying it for people who are watching this who are not you and my, because we are going to...
question.
Yeah, it's a setup for the question, which is, given this is the supposition, given that we need to clarify that survival of the fittest is widely not perceived properly as it's not survival of the strongest, it's whoever fit the adaptive situation at the time biologically. Yep. So let's just clarify that, because...
We have clarified it.
So and then Jordan B. Peterson and people in the manosphere tend to argue that just because the lobster's brain hasn't changed fundamentally for 250 million years, and there are hierarchies in lobsters, and there are hierarchies in the beehive, and there are hierarchies in every other thing, there's a hierarchy in human nature, and therefore we just have to put up with the fact that men are more dominant than women, and blah, blah. And it's like, dude, we're in the 21st century where you can get a shot in your arm and make us immunised against sperm and pregnancy, and we got a chance to fucking evolve, you idiot. How about you evolve the culture for women on the planet, who are 50% of us, by availing us of technology, instead of just thinking, oh, yeah, no, it's definitely going to be like this because I'm a fucking man and you're a fucking woman. So where I'm going with that is, like, do you see no examples where you lived, whenever women were empowered financially or socially or otherwise, things changed for the better? Did any men and women try to make that happen in the places that you lived?
They might have.
Oh, please. What does he want?
They might.
What does he want? Darling, what do you want, sweetheart? What do you want? What does he want?
it happens in pockets, but we're talking about culture in the world, you know. Nearly 5 billion people. That's a lot
8.
of... Yeah, 8 billion.
It's a lot.
So you have all these sort of various tribes in different places, in different states of advancement, like compare Scandinavia to Gujarat or, you know, some place in India. You know, their consciousness is way different. It's just, oof, their consciousness is so different. And so you can change
How
things.
is it different? Tell me, because I never lived there. What's the difference?
Well, there's a feeling of... Get out. Come on. Sorry about that, but it's just...
It's all right. There's a dog. He can only be a
Oh,
dog.
that bastard. He can't control himself. So where were we?
Bush, but the difference between a European nation you lived in and an Indian province.
Or Indonesia. But once again, business. Same in Africa. There were business women in Indonesia. The women did the business. The men just sort of hang around, drink and play cards. It's
Funny
really,
you should say that.
It's very... Why funny? No, sorry, I shouldn't have asked the question.
No, I mean seriously.
No, it's not funny. It happens everywhere. Africa, Middle East, Indonesia. It doesn't happen in Scandinavia.
Does it happen in the Western nations you've lived in under democracies in the 21st century and the 20th?
Well, I lived in America for years. That wasn't such a good experience. It's not
Sure.
a culture.
Yeah.
I'd rather live in
Worst democracy
Asia,
on earth.
in-
Worst democracy on earth.
Oh, their whole thing with money is just over the top.
And guns.
So yes, it's I much prefer Northern European cultures. For them, it's natural. It's like my mother and father. They didn't discuss things about who would do the washing up and so on. It was just automatic, and then the children learn automatically. So, like I said, that story about Japan of, you know, washing up. To me, it was no big deal. It wasn't a show that I was trying to expose
No, you were genuinely
them.
helping.
I was washing up, and so I think that's the upbringing is a very important thing. So trying to change people after they've grown up,
Is too late, right?
too late. It's children, and it's the mothers that teach the children mainly.
I think a lot of mothers who are having the crap beaten out of them and trying to get away from men, but knowing that the men are threatening to kill them and their kids,
Yeah,
are
but what
probably might have
percentage of
something to
that
say
is
about
of
it.
society.
Well, the stats on that in Australia alone.
Like what? What percentage of women get beat up by their husbands and their kids harassed and so on?
Well, we'll put that in the comments section underneath, because there's 3 organisations that are good for that. One of them is ANROS, that's the Australian National...
My question was the percentage.
Yeah, I was about to
Not
say...
organisations.
No, well, if you heard, the point was that those organisations are charged deliberately to go and measure how much that's happening. And ANROS is the Australian National Research Organisation on Women's Safety, and they have those statistics. And the Australian Institute of Family Studies are meant to, and they don't. And there is another organisation that we fund, us being the taxpayer, called the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare. And welfare is meant to being about our faring well.
So any of them give a percentage?
Yeah, they do, and we'll put it in the comments section, because I'm not going to stop the interview and go and look at what the percentages
so you
are.
don't know
So
it, okay.
I don't know it off the
That's
top of my
fair
head.
enough.
Yeah,
That's all I wanted to know.
so I get, I'm just curious to moving along to what you saw work, because if you've been doing this all of your life that you teach, so you're getting, just correct me if I'm wrong, here's the precept, here's the setup of the argument. It's not an argument, it's a supposition in my case.
Point of view.
I would presume that you have encountered a lot of people over multiple continents on the planet, most of them except for poles, south and north, where people they've got enough agency and enough time and enough self-realisation to want to alleviate their suffering via meditation. So these people have come to you voluntarily. You didn't try and impose it on them. They came to you voluntarily. That would be ridiculous, right? But what I'm saying is some places, they impose what you should think about China. They impose what you should think about the man.
good.
So that my point of it is, since it's not, you weren't indoctrinating anybody. You were only there to serve people who were already voluntarily coming for hopefully a relief of their suffering via meditation, because they can't, right? And an insight into themselves. Give us some examples of, I mean, you obviously do this work because you can see its utility. It's obviously working, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. So what are you seeing? Give us some examples, just indulge us, the audience, give us some examples of what you saw about great suffering that was substantially alleviated by great meditation.
Well, that's a big, long list, actually.
Go for it.
And
people can tune out.
What? Yeah, but I'm not going to name people and
no, I don't mean it.
Yeah, no, I'm talking to the people,
oh, my bad.
Right? Yeah. So I'm not going to do that, but I can. There's countless examples of people that have had a hard time with their husband and relatives, not necessarily just a husband, but children, parents of children, and it hasn't helped everyone. Realistically, unless you're committed to some transformation, it won't happen. Young boys in utes aren't interested in female rights. They're not.
Correct.
So you can't.
So let's stop trying to change their behaviour and deal with the results of it and preventing it.
Well,
preventing the worst part.
Or educate before.
Exactly. No, I don't mean give up completely. I mean, if you're not going to institute, I said it to the DV Commissioner, Deputy Jenna Roberts, 5 weeks ago, and she would attest to this in her 1 hour that she gave me. I said, unless you're going to start when they're 0 to 5 and then primary to 10 and go and say, here's what respect looks like, here's what disrespect looks like, and the difference would be over here. And so unless you're going to deliberately inculcate them, and that's kind of hard to do when you're funding Catholic and other systems of school thought that teach the woman came from Adam's rib to keep him company and was the origin of all origin. You know what I'm saying? Horrible fucking dog shit that the patriarchal misogynist religions of Abraham.
We know all that.
Well, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I know. But I tell you what, by telling them, they don't realise.
No, they don't. They still don't get
I talk to young boys in utes. They just,
couldn't care less.
My best methods, etc. My limited 71 years of experience of life is
straight over the top of their head.
There's no way they'll get it.
No,
sorry.
So only when they are like a lot of people find any kind of religion or attempt to transcend their suffering, let's put it that way, because a lot of religious is about that and a lot of religion is just about indoctrination. But in your case of proselytizing and teaching that mindfulness and meditation can actually cause a manifest difference in you, if not anywhere else, and can help you, then where is your evidence, given that we work on, oh, this works, that doesn't, oh, that's a bit of that working, a little bit over here, given that we could have a national program of teaching children how to meditate for 5 minutes a day in the morning and 5 minutes in the afternoon in school. And this is actually done in some Scandinavian countries. It really is, right? It really actually is.
Way ahead.
Well, and in fact, Africa has one of the African nations, I believe it might be Kenya, I could be wrong, I'll fact check it later, have taken to teaching children chess as a part of the fundamental school curriculum when they're 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, teaching them how to literally strategize.
I lived in Kenya for quite a while.
This is recent.
Huh?
This is recently, last 20 years, 15 years.
Yeah, that's when I was there.
Right.
Well, how old do you think I am?
71 according to you.
Yeah, Kenya, they were very interesting. Once again, women. Because I was doing these projects that were quite large, with United Nations and lasers and, stuff. And still, the females were the predominant. First of all, they were interested. They liked education, and especially because, I was on their side, so to speak, males in Africa, it's not far from, hitting them over the head with a club and dragging them in the cave.
And a machete.
It's a shocker.
And a rape.
So anyway, I did that museum, and the women, of course, they loved it because there were various tableaus that sort of illustrated, that women should be more respectful of their...
Respected.
Yeah, by their...
Respected
people.
by men.
And so it was... it's successful on that level in the sense that whoever you react with, whatever you are as a person, you can spread that vibe amongst people that are connected to you. But people over here, the young boy driving around in his ute doing wheelies and running over animals, he doesn't get affected by that because they never get influenced by that. So to me, education is about, I'm to be honest, I don't think there's any repair of the way the world is. It's just descended too far. basic morals have disappeared.
I'd agree
when
with
you
that.
don't respect mothers, there's something very,
Wrong
very
with
wrong.
absolutely, and that would go down from the individual to the actual culture itself. It's from the inner to
from
the
the
outer, to
culture.
the outer
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
inner. Looking at the idea that things do change, looking at the idea that in my lifetime black people were being lynched in America and the Ku Klux Klan existed, and now we've got just white cops shooting black people. But of course, that was a glib.
Black cops
That
shooting
black,
white
yeah,
people.
that was a glib. In case anyone's American and doesn't understand irony, that was a glib and ironic remark
got
because, yeah, well, you and I might, but you don't know.
Oh, our viewers do too.
Well, hang on, here's the point. I'm actually aiming not to preach to the converted. I'm actually
Yeah.
aiming to preach because I don't see any point in preaching to the feminists. When I talk to women and men like you who understand that reciprocity, respect, and equality between men and women looks like something, it looks like a fair deal of equitable opportunity as well as equitable inputs and outputs. So if you payment, and it looks like we've got Australian journalists like Annabelle Crabb who will tell you clearly, like hundreds of women have been saying for at least hundreds of years, that the massive amount of unpaid home labour is not only done by women in the lion's share of circumstances around the world, but they also in first world countries now go out and do a 40 and 50 hour and a 70-hour week on top of all of that labour at home. And especially if, like me, they were single mothers, 84% of single parents in Australia are female and be more everywhere else. The point of it is that things do change over technology changes culture. We're working with iron and anvils, and we're working with brass, and then we're working with digital, and we're after steam and coal. And it seems to have been that there's an almost inverse, I mean, this is my theory, but there's an almost inverse relationship between where the technology has got human beings to, given that the female gods have been extinguished and that rampant patriarchy and misogyny is so global. They haven't been, like in other words, we seem to have progressed enormously technologically, but only in the first world nations where there is a relative access to contraception are women anywhere near advancing in their terms of education, finance, and treatment of respect and equality by men. And we, as if we could do anything to change them, as if it doesn't start at birth. As I said to Dr. Jenna, I think it's Dr. Jenna, her name's Jenna Roberts, the Assistant Commissioner to Michaela Cronin for Domestic Violence in Australia, as I said to her 5 weeks ago, I said, are you really going to go out there? If you did just say we could change men and start when they started public schools at 5 years age and private schools at 5 years, you're going to teach the Catholics who think that women came from Adam's rib. You're going to teach the Muslims. You're going to teach the Jews, none of who have female leaders at all anywhere. You're going to teach them that we're definitely equal, even though you can't see any female leaders in your church and you can't see any female. How are you going to keep bullshitting to us above and beyond these poisonous misogynist narratives that keep us downtrodden and in your place, and you slut this and you're more on that, but we'll make you a hoe if we're Andrew Tate and you can get us money. That dog shit. A lot of people do, because a lot of people.
But what I'm saying, the solution is you don't pay attention to idiots that are spouting so much crap. Why listen to them? Why listen to Donald Trump lying in every interview? Now, I've done a few studies. The latest sort of investigation I did is about the Vikings. Now, most people think Vikings, broadswords, killing people, etc. No. Do you know what their main quality was in their society?
Tell me.
Honesty. Honesty. Tell the truth, no matter what the consequences.
Cost. Yeah, well, there you go.
So, an example was in their society, someone kills someone. So, normally in the past, people had to pay restitution. People had to give money.
Blood money. Blood money.
Blood money. So,
spear in the leg.
Yeah, so the Vikings were that if you said that you didn't kill the person and it was proven you did, you were killed because you lied. Not because you killed the person.
Yeah, because you were dishonourable.
Yeah, the normal payment is if you kill someone, there's restitution, blah, blah, blah. It's not a good thing, killing anyone. But the fact was that they were killed because they lied about the situation. Meaning that every time you're in a crisis and there's drama, like Vikings, perhaps face those situations quite often, you have to be honest. You have to be honest in any situation, because if you're telling a lie, what does that mean to the other person? First of all, disrespect. And secondly, wrong communication. So you're telling some bullshit story. People are absorbing that and creating a story around it. Whereas you tell the truth, it stops all that stuff. As soon as you lie, you have to lie many times to cover it over. You tell the truth, what do you have to worry about?
Well, you have to worry about the consequence, obviously.
Yeah, there's no consequence to truth. You tell the truth no matter what the consequences. That was the Viking rule.
Yeah, I get that.
And I believe it as well in our Western society, living in Deloraine, Briona, wherever we live, you tell the freaking truth.
So
Then
what if
there's nothing left over.
What if for example, in my humble opinion, one of the only things that America has as a democracy that's even vaguely meritorious compared to the Australian democracy, i.e. we're superior in every way, other than, they have the First Amendment right to free speech and their Fifth Amendment right to shut the fuck up and not incriminate themselves in a court of law or anywhere else. We have none of those rights. In fact, the police are so literally unheeded and unimpeded in any of their behaviour in Australia that they can seize your phone on what's called suspicion, download your...
Come on, what's the question? Danielle,
download your entire data sphere. We have no... I'm establishing for people who don't live in Australia and think that in America we've got the right to this and the right to that, because we do have a 1.5% French audience, and we do have an audience that exists differently to how we exist in Australia. So I'm just establishing the bona fide difference between our democracy and theirs. And in Australia, we don't have a Bill of Rights. So therefore, you've seen me, and you've seen my evidence that I've given you, that to use a carriage service, a social media post, an email or a telephone call or a television interview and say, like Tanya Plibersek said on national TV, when I found out what he did to my daughter, I wanted to kill him. If I said that about the men, Tim Friedman and Ian Little, who've taken my children against family human rights, then I would be in jail for saying they should be killed for doing what they've done to me and my children. They should be killed. No. It happens because...
Judges aren't stupid. That's been
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, true.
I've had the experience of Federal Magistrate Leanne Turner, who surprisingly wasn't at the door, and I've called her a negligent cunt because she is. I'm not a cunt, so I get to use that word. She's a piece of disgraceful human being who didn't, So I'm saying that I've named people, and for that I've had the Australian law threaten to jail me for naming people who've done egregious human rights violations to myself and my children, including relatives of mine. So... who sued their own siblings and children. So the idea of that is that just quite simply, we don't have very many protections at all to speak the truth. To get back to your point, I was getting there in a circuitous, discursive fashion. We don't actually have in Australia any constitutional or legal protection to speaking the truth.
Matter.
So you reckon? So here's a question: should I go to jail? Should I actually accept it to keep speaking the truth of what's happened to my children on this YouTube channel and elsewhere? Would you think that I was in a better, more honourable position doing time in jail if that's where they put me? Or to shut up with intimidation about these charges?
You're positing two
separate
situations
things
which don't necessarily happen.
Yes.
So first thing is, I've had experience, and you have as well in the law courts, that the magistrate, the judges are quite aware of what's going on. You can't pull the wool over their eyes. They've seen
countless
1,000 cases of your case. 1,000.
Yeah, and they've seen all the different types of personalities who try it on.
And they're checking you out as you come.
Your demeanour.
So first of all, you won't be put in jail.
Don't jinx me. The other thing, I don't really believe in superstition. I'll knock on wood anyway. The point of it being, look. A lot of people agree that the AVO situation, which is meant to stop mainly women and children from being murdered by men, has got to the point where your neighbour can accuse you of being a pedophile for trying to pick up somebody up the road and give them a lift down the road to school. And in my case, where my neighbour, when I said, look, get your cat off my land for killing the native birds, or I'll put it in a trap and take it to the RSPCA in Hobart, and they tried an AVO.
What happened to me?
It's absurd.
What happened to me in my AVO?
Yeah, exactly. But you got dismissed. But you got a good judge. No, they're not all great.
Common sense. Anyone knows. offering to give your kids a lift home from 1.5 kilometres away, when you pass by them, you just go, oh, see ya.
Yeah, do you want to drive? Yeah.
Or do
But
you
what about
offer them?
talking about on YouTube about your children being stolen for 8 years and putting you on a disability pension? Everybody knows, but you just saw the evidence right there, right then, didn't you?
Well, I had to fight the AVO as well from the idiot next door.
Yeah.
And when it finally got to court, the judge goes, come on. You just kicked them out, ding. So the same thing, if there's a certain situation which is really obvious, magistrates are pretty sensible. They don't make bad decisions when it's really obvious.
You've only ever had a small run-in with the Australian law, I take it. You've never had any real problem with the Australian law because you've had a good experience.
I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay.
I've been to court for, partner wanting everything, etc., and you just can't do anything. That's the opposite. Males go, shit, I worked all my life. I got this place. It's an inheritance from my mother. She got an inheritance of 1.87 million, yet she took 500,000 from me.
That's disgraceful.
Okay, so that's
I would never
disgraceful.
do that. That's disgraceful.
That's
But the
disgraceful.
point of it is people
Hang
do
on,
it.
that's
People do
male
it.
That's
People do
male,
it.
female. That's male-female stuff.
That's disgraceful.
So on the male side, I can say that and go, that's been my experience. So
Yep.
fucking women actually get
Screwing
a
you.
lot better deal.
Screwing you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, how did I deal with that is by actually removing myself from the situation and not replaying the script over and over. I've lost 500,000, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm in a freezing place and it's not a very good home, etc., etc. But it's home. So I've made it for whatever I want. I've created my own world. Trying to fight the other world, I just find, well,
What about
I
the
got
concept
tired.
of injustice? What about, just riddle me this. What about the concept, because a lot of people like, for example, the most famous, Nelson Mandela, did 27 years in a jail, although he did have mates, unlike me. In my jail. He had 27 years on an island of his life taken for the principle, for going, and he was a lawyer, just like Gandhi. They went on principle. They were prepared to go to jail on principle of speaking truth to power. In Gandhi's case as a lawyer, speaking it to the British, and of course in the South African case.
What
Right?
was the result?
Well, a lot of them did a lot of jail
South
time.
America. I'm not talking about the time.
A lot of them did a lot of
What was the
jail.
result? They were after some result. You're after a result to have women
Liberated,
liberated.
emancipated
What
from men.
did he do? And what was his result?
Well, he ended up
Despite
being...
being in jail.
Yes, I get it.
After jail.
But
What
that
did
was
he do?
his... Okay, so here's my question. Just because we take one example of a great leader who then caused a cultural revolution by
Mahatma Gandhi.
And I just said Gandhi as well.
That's
just
two.
Yeah, and there's a lot more people.
Velikovsky, there's 3.
And 30,000 Iranians just got mowed down to death by semi-automatic fire by the fucking Ayatollah Khomeini for going out and protesting. So, these are just the heroes who made it. It's not all the heroes who died for actually opening their mouths. This is a very crucial point. They went to their fucking deaths for saying, you are talking horseshit. There's not a little man with a penis who lives in the sky. Oh, you're a heretic. Burn her as a witch. Or in that case, they weren't. They were actually just midwives. The point of it is lots and lots of people who you're never going to hear about every single fucking day die.
And
Because they spoke the truth.
They didn't achieve what they wanted to
But
achieve.
they went on principle.
So what? Yeah, having principles is one thing. You have to be sensible as well, don't you?
Well,
Like
what?
that dude next door that called me a pedophile. What? So I went to court and did all the sort of natural thing, and the judge looks at all the things and goes,
This is ridiculous.
this is ridiculous.
My point of it is, though, when we're talking about the struggle that so many people on the planet, and I say
yeah.
struggle not like, oh, I'm trying to walk up a hill with a bag on my back. I'm talking about they are out in the streets knowing that they face death by machine gun just for opening their mouths and going, you're a tyrant. We're sick of your fucking dog shit dogma, your religious dogma in the Ayatollah Khomeini's case, your fucking dog shit treatment of women and murdering them for having scarf the wrong fucking way. Fuck you and the goat you rode in on. Fuck you. We're out of here. We'll die for this. And then Australians will look, well, don't open your head. Don't fucking go and walk over the Harbour Bridge, mate, because Chris Minns and the cops will try and shut you down for speaking out about the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians. Don't fucking open your mouth, mate. Wouldn't you be better off surfing and having a latte? Wouldn't you be better off down the road having a nice caravan trip with your missus? Like, it's hard to describe to people overseas if you're watching from France, like my analytics sometimes say that you do in America and UK, it's hard to describe just how parochial Australia is in so many.
You think it's different in France?
I don't know. I haven't lived there. You have.
I have. It's no different. It's worse in, I hate to call them primitive countries, like countries that haven't developed and are just more sort of original tribal situations. It's much harder there.
I'm
Indonesia, Africa.
Papua New Guinea, Fiji,
Africa. It's a whole other story. Don't be blonde and go up there.
Don't go to the Middle East. Don't go to Africa. So there's 2 major continents. Don't go to the whole of the Middle East, Africa. Don't go to China because there's 3,000 men in the Chinese ruling party and women hold up half the sky but not even fucking 1/3 of the parliament. Sorry, wrong accent. Fuck this shit. Fuck this global misogynistic parochial
But
shit.
jumping up, and that's my point. You go onto a street and complain about stuff and
Protest
and get shot.
And get killed.
What have you achieved?
Well,
don't go into expansion.
what have you achieved? What have you achieved? I know about it, and I'm sitting in Australia. That there are noble, brave people who will put their lives on the line for a principle.
Yeah, that's you're saying it from Australia, which is a very sort of
Oh, don't worry, I'm about to take a walk. Apparently, according to these fucking assholes who are trying to shut me down for talking about what's happening to me and my children. Get fucked. Get fucked, both of you, while you're at it. 3 of you. Fuck you all. Fuck you, Tim Freeman, Marnie Roundman, Ian Little. Fuck your partners who did this to my kids. Fuck you all. Sue Hardy. Fuck my sister who gave my child away when I had a nurse. Fuck them all.
Of course, they're
dog shit human beings. Who would do that to a child to take away a loving mother? But apart from pushing my own barrow,
you have to
separate it. Yeah,
move away from
but also
dog shit situation.
But also,
why do you keep emerging?
No, okay. So here's the go. Here's the go. As I see it, wouldn't you try to change if you could? If you had a shot at it, wouldn't you change the underlying systemic problems that actually, so the belief systems or the lack of legislation or the inclusion of legislation or the failure to update legislation, wouldn't you try, in a first world democracy like Australia, wouldn't you try, even in a third world backwater like Iran, with their fucking dog shit bags over half the population, wouldn't you try to have a shot at standing up for what was right and go down swinging, go down fighting, as the old saying goes, go down swinging? Wouldn't you try to change up and say, well, hang on, this piece over here, we don't have a Bill of Rights. If I had a Bill of Rights, this AVO never would have happened.
No.
Or if I had a Bill
Are you asking me a question about how I would do it?
How would you do it?
Well, I wouldn't do it like that.
How would you do it?
Because the first thing is male testosterone. You tell anyone anything, or you assume a position where you're smarter than them and higher than them. Males will react to that. It doesn't matter who it is.
We've got 52% federal parliamentarians who are females right now, so we've got a chance at telling them something that they're interested in listening to. So what would you do?
The education, like we've said so many times before, has to start when you're younger.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get an old, encrusted,
19-year-old with a P-plate running over a patermelon.
Yeah, and thinking
for fun on a Saturday night down the road. Yeah, I heard about that. What a piece of dog shit. Yeah.
And we're both
it's like Andrew Tate.
Not into that. I think the education has to be, people have to realise that they're not the body. It sounds weird, but we're so engrossed.
Thank God for that.
Exactly.
Me and my 30 kilos.
You're a being in the body. You say my body. I think with my brain. Is that just semantics, or is it the soul saying, oh, I'm thinking with my brain. I'm looking through my eyes.
But you told me that your parents gave you a good upbringing, and so that completely crafts your brain. So when you're brought up in a... But
there's refinement, isn't there? Because there's the old systems, which are old systems, and they work to a certain extent. But we also have to sort of look into the future and be a bit more broad-minded, because now there's how many billion people on the earth? Yeah, you say 8. So, those things need food, it becomes
resource.
Spiritual, it becomes a physical thing. Because unless you have it together here, it's never going to happen in the physical world.
How many people
Laws don't change things.
Yes, but technology does.
Has the internet made the world a safer place?
Okay, well, hang on. Here's
the question.
I'm answering that. I would never have known in 2010 about the uprising around the entire of the Middle East called the Arab Spring. We called it that.
Yeah.
We called it that. Unless it was for the digital technology that the people who were rioting in the street going, we're sick of your fucking tyranny, we want democracy, we want this shit fucking monotheism, this theocracy to piss off back into the dark ages where it belongs. We want you to fuck off, and we're prepared to go out on the streets and write about it. Well, didn't work in the end, but a fucking lot of people around the world, most of that world, by the way, now is under 30. 50% of those populations, like Africa and like the Middle East, they're under 30 years old. And they grew up with the internet. And they are used to sharing information on a real-time, as it happened, what we're doing now basis.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, but so my point of it is you can also share the dog shit ideas of Andrew Tate, okay? The point of it is when you get to this invites us into other ideas like if you're going to have technology that creates culture, so, we can only do so much with stone, then we got iron, then we got steam and coal, and then we got digital, and now we're in space, and now we're fucking up the planet with massive servers everywhere and bombs and wars, and it has I'm not talking about an argument that human beings are going to survive this. I happen to agree with you that we're not, and it strikes me as deeply unfortunate in the extreme that the dinosaurs were here for 250 million years. They weren't just 250 million years ago. They were here for 250 million years. We only without humans. We only climbed down out of the trees 250,000 years ago. What's that? 0.01 of what they had. We're not going to make 250 million years. Not a snowball's fucking chance in hell. Not a snowball's chance in hell.
One would say
not a snowball's chance in hell. So therefore, you're 71, I'm 55. We get to say with a lifetime, Shakespeare was dead at 52, Spinoza at 45, and fucking Mozart at 35. That was a lifetime. We get to say...
Robbie Burns at 39.
I don't know who that is, but you can tell me that.
Scottish pop.
Okay, good. And of course,
Wrote Old Lang Syne. So you'll know him.
Well, I should be able to reel off Clara Schumann and other great female composers and scientists age of right now. But my point of it is...
Hildegard
von Bingham. My point of it is that given that we know that technology is culture hugely because we can do things now that we couldn't do then and it changes where we're going...
No,
Oh, okay, my bad. It's not my bad.
Can I do that?
Yeah, no. Let's just pause it, and I'll put the thesis. Do you? Well, we can't pause it live. It actually has to terminate. But I won't embarrass you by putting your tinkle on the big. Remember how I said, "Do you want to go before we started?" It's probably changed. Oh, should I yell through the walls, Martin? Do you want the question through the wall? Watch your head. It's a low one. Anyway, as I was saying, as Martin goes to the toilet, we're going to cut on live cam to the dahlias. How's your dingle dangle going? We're on the dahlias. Damo? I was going for a bit of alliteration. I said, how's your dingle dangle going? We're on the dahlias, Damo. Yeah. Jeez. It's hard to get a laugh these days. I have to amuse myself. Well, there you go. There's a very picture-perfect day in which the dog shit who've withheld my children from me for years have prevented them from experiencing this lovely little idol down in the north of Tasmania, which is a bushy continent, inverse triangle, as Barry Humphries might have said. And look, right at that moment, a butterfly landed on the dahlia. See if we can get that butterfly. And for those of you who are overseas and haven't seen a bumblebee in Tasmania land on dahlia, there she is. There she is. That's a bumblebee at work, doing what he or she was made for. And they don't have to deal with digital. And the chickens are up the back in the coop there. None of my children have seen this astonishingly lovely view. There's some butterflies in the background. Bee flew away. Martin, are you all good there? Yeah, no, I know. Thank you. You noticed that. Well done, you. It's at the wall. I was going to say you haven't disappeared.
50 years.
Well, I tell you what, you're coming back. You got a job, baby. I got some. Boy, have I got some jobs for you.
Yeah, that's a
No, I'll pay you, you twit. I'm not a Anyway, I believe in that. So we were roughly at the idea we were talking about that dinosaurs were around for 250 million years.
I did paleontology. I love dinosaurs.
So I won't say who's your favourite stegosaurus. I'll say, is there? We both agree that there's no chance for the survival of the human species past.
Oh, there is survival, but not in its present form.
Right.
So it means the population's got to go down.
And wouldn't you immunise women against sperm as the first way of doing that?
No, I think things are going to become a bit more...
No, I mean, wouldn't that be a good idea?
I don't believe in any of those injections and...
No, this is the contraceptive pill. It doesn't kill them and it stops them from having a child inseminated, whether they like it or not. Because remember, most women don't get a great orgasm or any fucking amazing thing in the third world where they're fucked whether they like it or not. They have a child in them whether they like it or not. And I didn't tell you because I was cut off in being quite brave, if I don't mind saying so myself, in divulging that I was raped by a mate of a mate in broad daylight right next to where I grew up because he drove me to a cul-de-sac. And so how was I meant to... hang on. The point being, how was I meant to anticipate that?
Well,
right? I
my
wasn't,
point is
being a trusting
that
person.
That sort of behaviour is...
abhorrent. But it happens all...
No, it's worse than that. The society should...
punishable by death.
Put him in the stock in the middle of the city and go, this dude did this to our community.
And there was no evidence because there were no cameras and there was no proof, and he would have walked every time like the majority of people. Hang on.
You only have to go to the hospital and they can tell.
No, that's a rape kit. You can get raped in other ways that don't have ejaculation.
Let's not get into the details of
no,
rape.
we need to because women live that.
No, we don't. The point, what is the point is about what education, how do we change people's thinking?
How come men are squeamish? Are you Yeah, okay, that's your theory. But are you squeamish about talking about the lived experience of women when they have a cock ejaculate cum inside of them and get pregnant and they bleed every 4 weeks, sometimes for a week or worse? They can die in childbirth with a tear between their vagina and their asshole, and you don't want to talk about it?
No, I don't want to. It's not the topic.
Okay.
The topic today is not about
the relative suffering of women. The relative suffering of women before
No, not the details. It's the solution to it.
Okay. What's the solution other than
the education at a young age and the understanding that we're not a body alone.
And if that were not true,
there and a women, so all that sort of persecution and that misogyny, etc., that creates such a minefield in the mind. That's a thing that needs cleansing. And what's the right perspective to have in this world about women, about children, about...
Actually, I said that you were 71 before you went to the loo for a loo break. I said, well, given that you're 71 and given I'm 55 and we get to qualify as potentially wise at this point because we've lived a goodly long life compared to other people. Oh, we can be as stupid as fuck. But I happen to think that I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't have to think you had something particularly interesting to say. You've been around. And you've been around, and you're intelligent, not just been around as an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big difference, isn't
handy.
it? You can live your whole life as a fucking idiot and die that way.
Yeah, and be a wise old man.
And be raping your granddaughter on your lap.
Being in politics and
all of that shit. So we know that, okay, well, actually, excellent that we went there. Because I guess if both you and I concur that human life isn't going to make it much past this point, given the degradation of the planet literally unilaterally in every regard, universally, existentially, existentially, everything. Given that there's not much evidence that we're going to make it as a species, what do you see as deep? If you had to write your own epitaph? Oh, not epitaph, because that's short on a headstone or a small engraved box of ashes these days. If you had to write a letter to your potential, to anyone you cared about in the future, do you have children?
No.
Did you want to have children?
No.
Okay, so you knew from a young age you didn't want to.
Well, when you say young, not 5 or 6, I don't know.
Well, I think 18's young. 25's young.
Oh, no, I had to be 4 then. Probably, I don't know, 11, 12, 13.
That's
14.
young. Wouldn't you say that's young? Pretty young. You're not even a teen.
Well, it's a youngsters less than 10. It's like.
Okay, so So given that from quite a young age you knew that you didn't want to have children, and given presumably you've been around a lot of children in your life and your volunteering work and women, and particularly given a lot of the people around you were females, we want the doggy in because she wants to come in.
Yeah.
Given that, it's okay, she can come and go, can't she?
Pete.
Pete.
Come on, Buster.
You know one thing I've noticed, just as a quick dive off, every single time I accidentally call a dog, because mainly the people I'm around are dog lovers, they don't bring their cat on a leash. Their pussies don't ride well in the van. Every time I talk to someone with a dog, if I call it the wrong gender, and I might call it the wrong gender 4 times, not deliberately, just because to me, I don't give a flying fuck what gender they are. They're a dog. And it's a particular breed, and it's had a certain upbringing. It's like
Imagine
everyone.
if we had that attitude to humans.
Well, I think we should.
Exactly.
There's a certain breed. There's a certain breed, but the problem with that is that you just came out of frame, so I had to reframe. The problem with that is that you go to eugenics then, because you're like, Jesus, dog shit like you shouldn't be allowed to breed.
No, that's all extreme stuff.
No. Well, I actually happen to think that, for example, as I said to you at the beginning, we never actually covered this off. You brought up Professor Brian Cox, and remember I told you how I took my children to see him.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. I asked you the question, but I didn't flag it as a proper question for the audience. You can hold that up to the screen. Not like they care. But the point of it being, just so they know that I'm not a bona fide twat, I'm not blowing it out my butt, that was a program, and it's particularly, it's genius. It was amazing. It was mind-blowing, because I'd rather give my children gifts that were experiences they'll never forget, rather than a fucking plastic toy from, a toy from China or whatever. So, I mean, they've had all of the above. But as they grow older, particularly 12, 15, and my daughter, who was prevented by Ian Little and brainwashed into thinking that her date with her schoolmate she could have had any other day was somehow tantamount to that, and worth overriding it. That's what he said. She doesn't want to go. So she doesn't fucking know what she's going to. How would she want to know? Anyway, the point of it being that because there's no accounting for taste, as we both know, Martin, and there's no accounting for certain peccadillos and peculiarities of certain cultures and certain personalities and certain humans, and why it is that someone like, for example, Billy Connolly can be brought up, abused in an alcoholic environment, and then become one of the loveliest, wittiest people on earth after he got over his addiction as a response.
Good old Scotsman.
Well, but my point being that, because, I think you know where I'm going with this, because we can have all sorts of hideous or great starts in life, and we can end up in an opposite situation. I know that many people who died of smack, and I wasn't my bag, but I know that many beautifully loved, well brought up people who happen to get into rock and roll and get a needle up their arm and die accidentally from an overdose, versus a whole bunch of people, for example, raped women in Africa with machetes and half a arm taken off, who've still got to bring home the bacon by themselves for 5 kids, and they're still going, and they've got no alcohol, let alone any fucking anaesthetic like heroin. So you don't get any necessary exit point in your life, as you do necessarily got an intro point. And of course, the example I tried to give you of that before was that my godfather at 69 years of age, murdered his wife with a pillow after 40 years of marriage, and he didn't drink a drop, and they went to church on Sundays, and he was jealous and controlling, and she died. Remember I told you her sister was on TV on Tuesday night on SBS talking about it.
Saw it.
And their children were busy berating her for talking about it. Well, shut up and sit down, you bitch. Don't talk about our father in public. Fuck off. She's the victim of a sister who was murdered.
Most sensible people would go, that's very stupid of the children to... First of all, they're not supporting.
You should have heard what they said. You should have heard what they said. It
doesn't matter what they said.
No, but what I'm saying is they're morons. They're morons,
So
and they're teaching in the Australian system.
Why bother engaging with morons? That's my thing. Is don't engage with morons. You won't be able to convince them of anything. So what the hell are you doing? You're just.
So how do you change culture?
Indulging.
Okay, so how do you change? So on that note. Let's get really, you want to get right down to brass tacks. Let's go there. We should. Because how do you cultivate a better kind of society based on beliefs and technology and all the inputs we have available based on education, because we could make a national curriculum to teach children to meditate twice a day before they, we could feed.
Meditation's the cure.
Well, no, okay, I didn't say that. What I said is we could do lots of things. Teach boys about how to respect girls and teach girls about what respect looks and feels like and sounds like, which is what I tried to constantly inculcate into my children. Love is as love does. It looks like this. It sounds like this. It will listen to you. It cares about you. It won't harm you. It won't use your vulnerabilities. This is what it looks like. Yeah, so the question, you can hear what the question is. You're essentially, I would put myself in the same group as you. I'll speak for myself then. I feel I'm prevaricating between believing that there is some ability to the word culture, like bacteria in a fucking petri dish that survives under certain circumstances and 3 degrees lower will not, like coral reefs. I see human beings as completely bacterial. I see them as a direct representation, a direct result of the type of, and I'm going, just bear with me because I'm going somewhere very specific with this. I see, my take after 55 years is that, predictably speaking, given these inputs here, given a loving and caring mum and dad, or just a mum, or just a dad, or just 2 dads and 2 mums, given loving human families around you, given loving humans, whether you're related to them or not, adoptive families, whomever, given love around you, given education, given opportunity, many human beings will flourish. That's my very broad thesis, okay? In the 21st century, that's my very broad thesis. Given no war, given their limbs not blown off, given an education system, given a social welfare net, given immunisations against diseases, whether you believe in them or not, they're proven around the world to have eradicated in the case of polio. The point of it being that given that we know that we can actually craft human behaviour given certain inputs, and that basically, as Laurie Anderson sang, language is a virus. Oh. Well, I say culture is a virus. It's bacterial and viral. It transmits, ideas can transmit really quickly. They can take 10 years to germinate, or they can take 500 years to catch on. They're like a bacteria sitting on a side of or they not catch on at all.
That's right.
And so given that there's so many inputs, the personalities are different by genes, by genetic DNA composition, by cultural imposition, whether it's intended or not. Yeah. Given that you and I both don't hold out any particular belief for the redemption of the hideous state of humanity at this point in time,
examples illustrate the point.
Exactly. No real hope for this.
It's an interesting little sort of tidbit. There's always advances in weaponry, from spears to bow and
space.
arrow to whatever.
From spears to space.
What percentage of time do you think human beings have not used that advanced technology in war? What percentage?
Oh, fuck all. It's always used in war.
What's that?
I wouldn't know. Well, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I'm not a...
0.03.
Okay, great. And we also have microwaves because of NASA, and we got Wi-Fi because of Hedy Lamarr.
We're talking about weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
They always use it. Always. 0.03. Who's going to bet on 0.03? So you have all these advances with technology. They're going to be used against people. What does the web do? What does all this digital stuff
I'm
do?
the one banging on about the manosphere. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, but you stopped my train of thought,
sorry.
etc. See, so that's
my bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know.
You said what percentage of technological advantages would ever be used for anything other than warfare? And then you sat up and you leaned forward and passionately said 0.03%, at which point you sat back down, and then I threw in, except that you get advantages such as Wi-Fi in war, because Hedy Lamarr and her partner invented Wi-Fi in war, trying to fight the Nazis. She was a Jew, and trying to fight the Nazis, not that she had to be a Jew, but she was. And the point of it is that we got Wi-Fi from experiments in war, so we get both good and bad things conferred on society from NASA exploring microwaves and going to space. We get both good and bad things conferred by technology. The internet can be used to show me the Arab Spring. The internet can be used by Andrew Tate to influence men to fucking punch the shit out of women and use them as prostitutes. It's not the technology that tells us what to do with it. It's what we make of the technology.
Of course.
So...
technology and a gun are inanimate. A gun won't get up and shoot you.
A person
So
will.
obviously it's a person.
Yeah.
Everything has to do with human behaviour. And that's why you can measure it. How many wars did you say are going on?
55. And there's now 56.
Do you hear that, people? 55 wars going on.
On 196 nations.
And we're talking about women's rights and so on. I mean, you know, it's a big, horrible
You think those
stew.
wars would be going on if women ran the world? That gets down to my final point. One of my
Maybe.
final points, really.
Golda Meir, Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, that
I mean,
would, yeah, absolutely, sure.
Yeah, so there'd be war.
That-
Argentina, Margaret Thatcher. England fighting Argentina, honestly.
No, I know, the Falklands, I was alive during it.
Woman. Okay.
My go of it is that I said I was going somewhere and I didn't get there, which is not unlike me. I had the opportunity to talk to David Walsh, who founded Mona. Do you know who he is or not?
Yeah.
So for those of you who are not Australian, he's a professional gambler and he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars with his mate, is it Jelko, his Croatian mate or Serbian mate? Because they got together at uni. He was extremely impoverished when he grew up financially. He was impoverished, lived in a housing commission in Australia, and his parents divorced when he was about 4 or 5. And his dad took him down the doggy tracks to punt on the local dog races, and his mum took him to the library, or said go to the library. And then he went to TMAG a lot, which is the Tasmanian Museum of Art and Art Gallery. It's incredible. Anyway, the point of it being, he ended up had the great fortune to meet his best friend in uni. They put their savant mathematician minds together and they created gambling systems, and they won hundreds of millions of dollars on everything from poker to horse races around the world. And therefore, to give back to the culture of Tasmania that grew him up, and because he made good, and because he's a Catholic and he believes he's got some guilt about that, he built Mona, and because he also had a fucking great art...
Good man.
Well, I think so. He had a great art collection. He wanted to stash it somewhere, and he thought, let's marry all those things together and fucking... And that's the kind of person you'd want. So in other words,
success is a result.
Yeah, but get this. On the very bee's dick amount of time that I got to talk to him one-on-one when everyone else disappeared from the table, including his partner and his best friend and his mate who packed up, and we got, talking music and we love the same things. The point of it was we got down, I tried to place a bet with him. Oh, that's another story. But the point of it is, one of the things he said in passing that I never got to drill down and say, what did you mean by that? Because he said at one point, yeah, but both of those major parties in Australia and the government, they're both the same. And I was like, the same? Labor's hardly as fucked as the LNP. And he's like, no. We really, when you look at it, they actually are. And so I was going to go there. But then before I tried to argue the relative merits of each of the federal parties in the Australian system, I then said, hello, doggy. I didn't say that to you. Hi, David, you're not a dog. I then said to him, yeah, but what if you're a fucking child whose mother and... I've got to stop worrying. What if you're a child in the Middle East whose limbs have just been blown off by high-tech weaponry from Israel funded by America for 35 years and the taxpayers on $7 an hour? What if you're a child whose mother and father have just been murdered, you aged 5, and you're in the streets and your limbs are blown off and there's bombs going off in the hospital around you? And he goes, oh, but those children... And he made this remark which shocked me, and I'm asked, so I'm going to a question with you. I'm going to a question with you. Thanks you. I'll take that slide on the chin.
No, I've been listening for a while, Danielle.
Yeah, it's a setup. The point of it is, it was necessary to say that because he then went to the questions context. He then went to the question of, not the question, he made the assertion in passing. He went, yeah, but all those children are creating their own reality. Or words to that effect. I thought I heard him say, experience, not reality. He said, but those children are also, I think it was, David, correct me, somebody, Kershaw. Somebody who knows him, correct me, please. If this goes out anywhere, please correct me. He made words to the effect, no one else is around, so only he's going to know it. So, David, you're going to have to correct me. He made words to the effect of, no, but those children were each creating their own experience, or words to that effect in that situation. One more thing, because I'm about to ask you whether you believe that. And you've spent a long time thinking about this, and you've spent a lifetime dedicated to the idea that there is a soul and that we are just looking through the windows and the frames of our eyeballs, even though you gave me a very good argument at the beginning of this about the fact that your mum and your dad and your loving upbringing actually really did be responsible for creating the good person that you are. The good personality that you are. So to finish off all of these points, I believe that you doing this, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm definitely prevaricating between whether there really is any hope or choice between the loving environment that you get brought up in and versus how you think and how you behave and where you end up. Or is there a soul in the body and that's driving and it's going to override the good love that you had or the bad experience that you had or anything? Like, it doesn't seem to be an either or black or white argument. But I pulled back in offence. It felt like a visceral punch when he said, oh yes, but those children are, creating their own... They're creating their own experience whilst they're having their limbs blown off in a genocide, and I find that very hard to believe. I find
you would as a mother.
Well, as anybody actually with eyeballs.
No, not as anybody. See,
with eyeballs.
I understand that situation differently. I can very easily understand what he's saying.
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, that's why I'm answering. So, he's got a certain... It's their experience. He's actually technically correct. But then... when something happens, I had a friend that was raped and murdered in India. I got lots of stories. Horrible. And I knew her very well. I used to visit her place. We had parties there to help organise, Beautiful, beautiful person.
What was her name?
No, I'm not going to say her name. And she, she died in India, was murdered. And then you think of karma, like we were saying before. Newton's third law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So on a technical level, something's happening to you, well, you've actually caused it. Do
you really believe that?
Yeah, you have to use your intellect, not your emotions.
Other way around.
So the point is, no. You didn't let me finish the point as well, that one thing is the technical aspect, but the other thing is a person's feelings. So you can't go up to someone who's experienced something terrible and go, oh, it's just karma.
That's right. It's insulting.
It's terrible.
That's insulting.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But it doesn't stop the fact that it is karma. It's equal and opposite reaction. How you deal with that, you can use it to your own benefit. When stuff happens to me, I'm aware of that and I don't react so strongly. Yes, there's the justice aspect, and I've got bloody Capricorn. I've got so much justice in my system, it's terrible.
I am a Capricorn, and I've got 3 major signs in Scorpio, and I've got a Libra rising and a Gemini.
Okay. So my point being...
You can diss me all you like.
My point being that I have this justice thing as well, and that's very strong in me, and I tend to react with testosterone rather than compassion or whatever. I find it very hard to have mercy on these...
pieces of dog shit.
Shitty people with machete. Boys in utes,
me too.
Killing animals.
Me too.
So there is this very difficult balancing point of having mercy and consideration for the idiotic actions of nitwits and what happens to the victims, so-called victims. So with understanding of Newton's third law, karma, Christians, as you sow, so shall you reap.
Yeah,
hang on. If you're a Christian, you have to believe in karma.
Except in a plague of locusts, or except in a fucking...
No. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. There's no avoiding that.
Absolute rubbish.
Islam is the same in the Jewish faith. That's just
a belief system. Are you going to tell the Australian farmers that they did all that sowing, but because of climate change they should reap a dog shit wipeout?
No, because you're applying it in the wrong way. That's not... No.
Well, what do you say to them?
They don't need... Farmers are resilient. They know the story of rain and no rain, etc. You wouldn't be bloody farming otherwise. I mean, goodness gracious, it's such a hard thing. So they're aware of it. They're very resilient people. They have a...
Yeah, and they're shooting themselves suicide in great numbers as well.
Because no one can sustain that pressure for year after year after year.
They shouldn't have to. They should nationalise properties.
No, they shouldn't have to, but they are. It's not should this and should
No, but
that.
they could do it differently. We could own the fucking farm and give them interest-free loans and they don't need to shoot themselves because they wouldn't be under that pressure. That was exactly my point. We can change culture. We can change legislation. We can change our belief system. That's the entire point of the Westminster democracy, on top of the fact that they're a machine for perpetual fucking war.
How much can you change yourself?
Very good question.
Yes, that's right. That's why I asked it. You
Well,
talk
how much
about-
can you?
Hang on. You talk about change here, out there, you know, all these people, vicious bastards. And what about what's happening in here?
So how are you going to meditate yourself through
Well,
the end of the world?
Well,
'Cause
I'm
you're not gonna
aware of the
change it.
No, you're not going to change it. No, oh gosh, no.
What are you going to do? Meditate yourself and say
No, I
that...
don't meditate like you say. It's not meditation.
How do you meditate?
For me, meditation's an attitude and an understanding and a perspective. So when I go into my favourite place, Subway, and the women that are behind there, I've developed such a good connection with them that when I go in there, we chat, and then they come out and we sit at the table.
Oh, is this a food shop?
Subway. Yeah, it's a food shop.
Well, I wouldn't eat there if you paid me, but the point of it is...
Oh, it's the only place a vegetarian can eat.
Oh,
let me tell
okay.
you.
Right, okay.
Anyway, they're beautiful women. They're beautiful people, you know. It's just... And so talking about things, they've changed. One of them is now wants to go upwards and work with solar. So with Subway, it's vegetarian. There's also, you know, it's serving people. There's a good vibe there, a really good vibe. So I don't know where I was going with that, but...
Yeah, you do. You said, I said, how do you meditate?
Oh, yeah, so it's attitude. So when I go in there, I have love in my heart. First of all, for the situation that, God, I can get some fresh food. And then the beautiful people that are serving it, you know. It's a bloody pleasant experience. So it's not a meditation as you sit somewhere, but it's seeing the world and absorbing the goodness from it and giving out more goodness. So it's a sort of a, yeah, there is a feedback loop happening where, you know, whoever's on the checkout at Woolies, I have a chat with them. I know them all because they're frigging people. They're not bloody young kid and, you know, young woman or old woman. They're people. And so I talk
Young
with
women
them.
and old women, of course, are people. But
They're all people. Everyone's a person. So
yep.
that perspective that's what for me meditation is, that I don't see you
as a gender or
as a
person.
gender
Yeah.
and whatever's happened to you in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
Because as soon as you think of that, it affects the way you see
Yeah,
things.
absolutely.
So my whole effort is on this.
So do you meditate other than bringing mindfulness to your relations
Yes,
with
we
other
would.
human beings? Because it's clear from what you just said, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, mindfulness is literally just being present in the moment, being dignified and staying in a basic
Being
human
aware of
connection
your
and transaction
behaviour.
with who you are, who you're with, who you are, how you're being about it. If you've got an impulse to be triggered or pissed off or opinionated or affected in some emotional or mental way, you immediately jam in your mind a circuit breaker where you go, hang on, look at your mind, look at your own mind, throw the mirror up to yourself. What are you doing in this situation? What was your tone of voice? How are you
And you know
contributing
what the
that?
best measure of that is? Is how you feel. If I'm feeling happy and content, that's an enjoyable feeling. When I'm angry, I don't have much pride, nothing to be proud about. Whatever other thing, it gives a negative, it's a horrible feeling. I don't want to feel like that. I'm not interested in creating sorrow for myself and then going, shit, it's overwhelming. There's so many things happening. My wife did this to me. I lost $500,000. There's no point. There's absolutely no point. And until I realised that, you're thinking about it. I was depressed. It's just shocking.
How long
taught
for,
meditation.
roughly how long for? Like years, months, what?
Years, probably
Realistically.
1.5, 2 years. That's how long all the solicitors and all that business went on. And of course, I didn't get help in the sense that I couldn't afford a solicitor. She paid $150,000
Yeah, same
to
with
get me.
Same with me. Friedman paid it $250,000.
And I had
$250,000.
$50,000 left to pay, and I paid that. And so you end up with nothing.
Exactly.
And that was all my stuff.
Which makes
Hang on, it was my farm. Everything was mine. But court, women's, special treatment, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I could feel quite hard done by. But
Well, I mean, you did for a while.
But I'm not prepared to think like that for any length of time. Yeah, I have to handle it and think about it and process it.
Well,
But after that, my effort is to not allow those thoughts to embed in my mind because they reproduce.
I get it. They reproduce negative internal memes. So let's up the ante a bit and say, it's okay. So on the basic precept, who's the person in your life? You don't have to name names, but just like think it in your head, get a mental picture, if you will, of a person who you had deep love and care and affection for.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got that picture? I'm not condescending to you. I'm asking you, have you got that picture? Now say that you saw her or him being raped and then butchered and murdered in front of you by a group of people who were laughing and filming it on their cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Like happened to the female soldiers in the Tamil Tiger. They cut their tits off afterwards and sent it around the males in the army. And sent it around.
Okay. What's the question?
How would you feel that you would be reconciled to your letting go of the sense of needing justice or revenge?
First of all, let me say, when you have set up these artificial situations where you're talking about raping, cutting off breasts, etc. I'm not envisaging myself being in a similar situation. However, whatever situation arises here, I will stand up and sacrifice my own safety for someone else's benefit.
Ditto.
That's what a man does.
Oh, no, it's what a good woman does as well.
And a good woman. We're talking about protection now.
Me too.
So that's what happens. It's very clear. I mean, it's funny that we have to talk about these things and say that treating women badly is not a good thing. It's so insane.
But honestly, hang on that. This is a really necessary point. This isn't just throwing shit in there because we've already hit way over the usual 90 minutes major feature film limit on this particular interview. And I don't give a shit because if I'm content over form, if the form is 3 hours but the content's great, I'll fucking watch it. It's like the rest of my life. I mean, you're here whether you like it or not. And if we get to choose what we're listening to, I'm presuming everyone's choosing to tune in or tune out, whatevs. The point of it is, fuck, I've set up so long I nearly lost my point. When you do confront the fact that you would put your own personal safety in some jeopardy to go to intervene. So you're an interventionist because you've got a deep sense of justice. Like you see a 19-year-old with a pea plate on deliberately running over patermelons and laughing with his mates down the road. No, that goes on down here. I heard of it.
I've seen it many times.
Okay, right. So what do you do? Because I know what I do. I intervene and I risk life and limb to stop. So there's a sense of justice that's imbued in some people that is so deeply ingrained.
You're not
that
very smart though.
Thank you for that, except that I'm still alive, so...
No, I'm saying that solution. When you see those dudes intervene...
You don't know what I've done. You said that without even knowing what I did.
You said you intervened.
Yes, but you don't know how I intervened.
Oh, come on, stop it. So you intervened with these young dudes. I'm saying
No.
Any intervention is a waste of time.
So, but you just said that you did intervene.
Yeah, I do for someone's safety. If a woman's being hassled by some dude on the street, and I've done it a few times, I just stand there very quietly but big and stand in front of them and ask them, what's wrong? I've done it many times to drunks. They're really easy. But testosterone-driven young youths are bashing up their wife on the main street of Melbourne in Gertrude Street, and the tram guy does nothing. I was driving by, I pulled up, 10 seconds, situation solved. No violence, no nothing.
Yeah.
But, so that's what I'm talking about.
Don't you think that's creative? Here's my sensible intervention. I'll just go one to match, just for the sake of it, because this is, you know how a lot of people when they die they want people to remember what they're proudest of in their life. You know, it's not an unusual thought to think, well, when I die, how would I like to be remembered? And my moments are so insignificant in the whole history of the world. I didn't cure cancer. I didn't oversee 15 marine biology PhDs. Well, Emma Johnston died at 52 8 weeks ago, and she oversaw 15 PhDs on marine biology, and she was the Vice Chancellor of marine biology. Lots of people have done amazing lives. I haven't had one of them. I thought I would, and I didn't. And one of the proudest moments, and easily one of the most dangerous moments for me, I never should have been in it. I was blithely stupid, but I was walking home alone on an extremely dark street in Sydney, which was a major road, but it was dark. The south end of Elizabeth Street heading towards Redfern, and there's no lights, and it was about 2 blocks before the Australian Opera, which is still there on the left-hand side, and I was walking towards Cleveland Street, which is major arterial road, but at 2 a.m. in the morning.
I know it well.
Okay, well, there's no major arterial at 2 a.m. in the morning on Cleveland Street. It's all dead. And I looked up, and in the silhouette of 4 blocks away, where Cleveland meets Elizabeth Street, I saw 2 or 3 guys, I can't be sure, but it was roughly 2 or 3, and there was a guy down on the ground, and they were kicking him to death. And I mean, he was going to die. Like, they were kicking I could see the silhouettes. It was like a 50s mock-up on a Elvis Presley film. G'day, doggy. And I looked at it, and most other people would either go the other way or call the police or back off and stop going towards it until it resolved and blah, 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 particularly if they're female and alone. Well, I'm a singer, or was, and I thought, fuck that shit. That's not happening on my watch. Like, that guy's going to die. Now, he could have been a rapist and a murderer, and they could be kicking him to death because he raped and murdered their sisters, but I'm reckoning that they're probably just drug addicts and some shitty fucking deal's gone down. It's probably just some shitty temporary fucking thing, and they're all off their tits on drugs and whatever, and someone's getting hammered, and I don't know who that person is, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, the person being murdered, and I'm going to do something about that. And it's going to be right now, otherwise that person's going to die. So as an interventionist, I just put on my best, and I won't do it because I'll blow the camera out, and I will because I know what sound levels are. It's basic shit. It's basic physics. But I just put on my best, deepest boombox voice and did a male. And I was like, oh! And I did my best. I was 24 actually. It was in 1995. I was 24. And I did my big, best, boomiest, dark voice, and just like, and I knew because they were so caught up in the adrenaline of beating the shit out of someone that as soon as a male-sounding authoritarian, bolshy voice went into them, and exactly that happened, they scattered like rats off a sinking ship. Now, I didn't approach any further because I wasn't prepared for them to be waiting in the wings to find out who called it.
In the hospital. Exactly.
And when I saw the guy sort of moving and getting onto kind of his elbow and looking like he was being able to stagger up, I retreated to relative safety and waded it out and then went home. But my point of it is a lot of other people, and especially single women, would not, alone on a dark street in a bad neighbourhood at 2 a.m. in the morning by themselves. God knows what I was thinking being there.
I have to introduce you to some of my female friends.
I'm sure I'd like them.
Danielle, they would knock all those guys out. I don't care if they're just basic punks. The women I know would knock them out.
I'm all for it. Slam.
That's the beauty of it. There's equality. I mean...
But I took a risk in that moment that the 3 of them could have looked up, and the light was falling on me because I'm in the distance, and there's really nowhere to go because the city's behind you, but it was behind you by 7 blocks next to and it's all industrial, it's all shut down, and the only hope you've got is a cab, and a cab can easily just see you're in a problem and go, get fucked, I'm not going and drive by. They're off like a dog shut up the house.
On a night shift.
Absolutely. I'm out of here. I don't need your problem, lady. Which is fair.
I intervene because I'm 6'6" and I'm freaking strong.
Yeah, and I'm not.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. It's not about you. I'm telling you.
No, I'm just saying that other people intervene as well when they're not 6'6".
Yeah, I know, but it's attitude. And the women friends that I know, they're not 6'6", but their attitude was scatter a whole bunch of guys. And one's a Maori woman who's.
Don't fuck with her.
Fuck no. The other one's an Irish woman. Red hair. Flame.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Oh, the idea that women don't have rage and anger in them to the same amount as men is preposterous.
Oh, yeah.
It's absurd. We just don't get to act.
I'm talking about when they're sort of
on fire.
In a spot, they can get out of the spot. Yeah. They are. So all women aren't, being raped and having their tits cut off.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I gave you. Hang on.
But you've said it so many times.
No. Listen.
Replay it.
No, okay, we will. And the thing of it is, and you can because it's gone live, and the thing of it is that my point of it is, that is actually, as I said at the beginning, rape is the first tool, and I said pun intended, black pun intended, it's the first tool of war, and we weren't taught that. I went to a public school in a first world democracy. Do you think I learnt shit about what happened to women in war? No, it was Napoleon did this and the Anzacs did that and fuck that. The Anzacs never raped anybody. The Anzacs never, great fucking guys, and this bullshit male masculine mythology.
What you're saying with this
So I'm saying that's common.
We should be taught about
Absolutely.
the proper, what goes back to my original point. Tell the truth. I'm not prepared to muck around with people that are bullshitting. How do you relate to someone who's telling you lies?
They think it's the truth.
Oh, well.
Hang on, except for when they don't. And that actually, thank you for saying that, because I'm going to ask you another question. If you'll indulge me, you can call time anytime you want. But I'm going to ask you one. Thank you for reminding me, because one of the many examples of the hideous, endemic, widespread, multinational levels of hatred of women, misogyny and patriarchy is that in many cultures, particularly Muslim, and I don't give a fuck who calls me politically incorrect for saying that.
That's right.
But it used to be other cultures as well, but some of them have progressed on and the others don't seem to be progressing with respect to 50% of the females' human rights in certain places. Not all of them, just many. Particularly in Pakistan, India, and where a woman's virginity is prized above all things, and when she's raped, not only is there no help or understanding or salvation or counselling or medical treatment, no, her fucking piece of dog shit brothers and male relatives will go and kill her because she's brought, in their dog shit eyes, shame on the family because her little vagina's not intact, so she's not worth anything. So let's go there, because I'm not making this shit up. Well, how do you cure that?
You don't fucking cure it. Come on. It's like saying, we've got to stop people from going over 60 kilometres an hour in the 60 zone.
They did. They put cameras everywhere and they find the shit out of them.
Everywhere. There's none in your street. I can do 100 down that street.
Of course you could.
So it's a law, but it's not followed. So it's the same with all that other stuff.
But the idea that it's going to impede you potentially in the future and there'll be a consequence, for these fuckwits, there's no consequence at all. They think that she legitimately shamed them by going out of the house without them.
I hate to sort of bring this point up, but there is a thing called karma.
Yeah,
and
but
hang on. No, you're avoiding it. You don't like the point.
No, I disagree with it. I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Totally invention.
Okay.
An invention.
Okay, an invention. What about Newton's third law of motion?
That doesn't apply to human relations.
It does.
Let's not yell. Let's keep it civil.
It's action. If you go and attack someone's country, what do you think that is? That's very physical. There's karma.
And if you've got superior guns like Israel and America, you'll get away with it. They just genocided the Palestinians.
For a while.
They just genocided the Palestinians.
Just watch. They'll have their settlement of
when?
accounts.
What? When all the Palestinians?
Yeah, see, you have to be patient. That's the thing with karma. That when will it happen? Well,
not in this lifetime.
I can give you freaking countless examples where things have caught up with people as they get older. People that are in charge of stuff make all the wrong decisions, cheat and so on. Fuck, dementia. Right? No one else around them's got dementia. They're demented. Why?
Biological process.
Oh, biological process, yeah. What governs biological processes?
Lots of things.
When you get angry, what happens to your body?
Drinking, smoking, not exercising.
What happens when you get angry?
Oh, several things.
Yeah, what?
Well, in my case or your case or whose case?
Your case, I'm asking you.
Well, many things.
Biologically.
It depends what caused the anger. If someone tried to attack me in a street, like recently happened, a rush of adrenaline automatically goes...
That's not anger.
I didn't say that. I said a rush of adrenaline automatically goes through my body at the time in order to give me the fight or flight mechanism. And after that, upon reflection, I may grow some anger about it. And/or I may also go, hang on, what part did I have to play in that? But what I will not do, which is what, and this is, we're not going to have, neither of us can prove either of our points. I can't prove that human souls don't exist beyond this body right now. You can't prove it either. No. So let's not be stupid enough to go to blows, come to blows verbally about this idea, because fundamentally this is the major point. I'm in overwhelming agreement with you on so many things that I'm narcissistic enough to say, I want to talk to you because you agree with my perspective on life and you've lived a long while of it. And I find it rare that some man has had such interesting, good, holistic insight into working out that this is dog shit.
You're hanging around in the wrong crowd.
Yeah,
Danielle.
I get
All
that.
my friends are like me.
Get that. I get
Who
that.
are you hanging around
Oh,
with?
no, I'm not anymore because I've done it with human beings have done it. I'd rather have a dog. That human beings have done it with me forever and ever. Amen. I mean, particularly.
Go on.
You know,
Now create your own world.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't have that in you, see, I put it to you particularly that we're never going to agree on whether the soul exists beyond our body. We can't prove it, and it doesn't.
I don't need to prove
Exactly, we don't. But nor do I.
Yeah.
Nor do I, because
Yeah.
it'd be lovely if it did. That might give some rhyme or reason.
The proof of any philosophy is how it's manifest in the world. So if you have a certain perspective, I don't believe in karma, and you get disturbed by stuff that happens to you, well, I'm sorry, that's karma. By not thinking about things accurately and putting them in context, you blow things out and you create these other worlds that just give you sorrow. And I'm not interested in giving sorrow to myself. I want to have fun. We're on this rock floating around the universe at incredible speeds, and people think that their lives are important. Yeah.
Except that is, as Professor Brian Cox, to go back to your,
Yes,
also
well,
says, he says that becomes to him, I heard him say it himself, but you can see it on lots of YouTube. He said that becomes to him the most extraordinary question because given our lives are so infinitesimally unlikely, numerically, out of 135 million sperm, your particular sperm and DNA managed to get to that particular egg at that particular moment. Like your life is numerically extremely unlikely. And I'm going to take it one step further, and he would know this, and lots of people who are in science would know this. There was a moment about 15 or 20 years ago in the human race among astrophysicists when they all went, ooh, at the same time, because having measured with recent technology, which changes culture, having measured the background rate of radiation in the universe at its most extreme forms, they all went away and did their maths, and they calculated, given the rate of the expansion and radiation of the universe, they all went away and calculated what they thought their maths was on what the rate of the Big Bang, the so-called Big Bang, the big implosion, was, what rate matter imploded at before, and beg your pardon, and they all came up with the identical figure, and the identical figure was accurate to 122 decimal places to the right of zero.
So what was the
in
result?
Its accurate. Thank you, Bird. All of the mathematicians on the planet who knew about how to measure the rate of the universe's expansion did the maths of what we now know to be the rate of the explosion of the Big Bang, what it's called,
expansion of the universe.
And they got a figure that was accurate down to 122 places to the point of 0 point blur 122 numbers. And they were all universally astonished. I'm talking about Peter Susskind, not Peter, his surname's Susskind, string theory he invented. And then Brian Davis, someone else Green. I wish there were a few more females I could throw in there, and there will be over time as we get less depressed. But the point of it is, they literally all came to the exact same figure, and the figure was correct with precision to like 0.1597837, and it went 122 places. Meaning that if it wasn't that exact rate, then matter in the universe would not have coagulated through gravity at the exact rate that it has, and the rocks that are formed around us and the stars and the nuclear fission that is the sun, our nearest star, and all which causes life on Earth. There you are, God. Good morning, Ra. We know who you are. We see you. Big kisses to you. We think you're a girl, but who cares? that life on Earth wouldn't exist the way it does. We wouldn't have evolved after the dinosaurs, and the whole entire universe wouldn't hang together. It would hang together in some other way, but it wouldn't hang together in this particular way. It wouldn't hang together to have created us. And so Professor Brian Cox is like, well, here's the universe having created us, looking back in on itself at how it got created, and there's the whole mirror of the mirror of the mirror, and so, then people started saying, well, is that an argument for God and, intelligent design? Because if it was that exact, otherwise all these amazing things wouldn't happen. And, the jury's out because we can't prove it and we're all going to die, and we go and die and someone else will pick up the argument and we may not be around for too long. So I guess the only thing I could ask in conclusion, it's a very long interview, but I hope it's been meritorious in whatever ways it has been. People will take from it what they will or they won't, if they're still listening or not. And I hope it stays on for a while so people can watch it. I certainly hope it's not just a live event. And I'm not subscribing to premium YouTube if it's not there in perpetuity. But my point of it is, what can we really... Brian Cox said, well, isn't it just incredible to be alive, full stop, witnessing all this phenomena, plural, of phenomenon, in an amazing place where it was numerically unlikely that any of us were ever going to fucking happen at all, let alone be in a first world nation where our limbs aren't being blown off and we're not running for cover and we've got clean running water and we're not dying from dirty water and we get immunised and we can have a life of some sort of agency, of some sort of choice in our way that we cultivate, getting back to bacteria and culture, that we create culture around us. So what would you... What's your what's been important? What's been important to you? What's your take home on all of this? Because you went, I was depressed for a year and a half or whatever, before I got
for a year and a half.
Well, I've been depressed for way longer than that, 8 years. But and I mean suicidally. No, not like it's a fucking race. You get what I'm saying.
Good.
You get what I'm saying. It's not like my suffering's worse than yours, like you said before. It's not that, because we're in the first world and my limbs aren't blown off. And to my great, I just strive for some correct measure of gratitude that this is pure luck that I was born here. Thank Christ my children aren't in a war zone. Thank Christ my children have got school. Thank Christ their water isn't going to kill them for being dirty. They've got toilet. Thank Christ not Christ. I mean, thank Christ. Well, that'd be a big difference between the two of us. But
there's no such thing as luck.
Really?
Mathematically, no, there isn't. If you want to look that up. There is no such thing as luck. Even though the figures are 1 chance in 10, 1 chance in... Yeah, but something will happen 1 chance in 10,000.
But that's maths.
Well, that's what statistics, that's what luck is. What do you think?
But it is maths. It is luck.
It's pure maths, luck.
But you just contradicted yourself. You said it's not luck, and then you said exactly that it is luck.
No, I said luck is a mathematical calculation, but there's no such thing as luck. There's causal forces that make things head in a certain direction.
I choose not to believe that.
What?
I choose not to believe that.
Well, it's fine. Whatever your philosophy is, it should bring you happiness. But
why?
Why? Because it's correct.
Hang on. Let
me finish. I need to talk.
Yeah.
You get plenty of chance.
Yeah.
You get plenty.
I know.
So now I've even forgotten the point, Joe.
Yeah, you said happiness is a product of correct. You did. I remember. I was listening to you.
Correct thinking. When your thinking's not straight, you get sorrow. Like, for example, lying. Oh no, I didn't do that. Then you get busted, and there's extra sort of bash on the hand. So all these things are actually their mindset, and so the whole thing of luck. Oh, they've had such good luck. No, they haven't. That's Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
That's in physics. It's not in human emotions and life.
Danielle, it's the law of the universe.
But we're made of more.
Law of the universe.
But our bodies are more than just the physics of them. They're our emotion and intellect. That doesn't apply to intellect and emotion.
That's still in the universe.
Yeah, but
Go and look it up. Newton's third law.
I'm not. Listen, neither of us are astrophysicists. We're not disputing that.
There's no example of a law of contradicting a law, which makes it in science a law because there's no example that it didn't work.
You said you did.
The third law of science, of thermodynamics, is for every action, There's an equal and opposite reaction.
That's in physics. It's not in the conscience.
Okay, you can think that.
No,
Fine.
no. Here's a proposition. The one thing we can locate the grey matter in the brain, and where our mind, if we don't have a brain, we're not having a human mind. But we can't see what the source of consciousness itself is. It's the last.
I'm afraid that's incorrect.
How so?
Because they do. I saw it on TV the other day. Well, they do their electrodes, etc., and they found where the original thought emanates from the brain.
What, you think there's just one place?
Yeah, that's where the soul resides. Yeah, one place.
Where?
Then it sends out a signal to various parts, emotion, intellect, etc. Everything's coordinated by I, not the brain. I am not my brain. If you think that that's cool, go for it.
No, but we've got all different parts of the brain. And
I've just explained. The soul is separate to the body. The brain is this thinking mechanism. The soul goes into it and gives it life so it can work.
That's your theory?
Yeah, that's my theory. And
when
the soul leaves the body...
Oh, shit, what she just got into. Sorry, she just spilled a whole bunch of crap. I'm listening to you. So when the soul leaves the body... when the soul
all the abilities go with it.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. You're very dead when you're dead.
Yeah, because the soul's left.
Yeah. And you think the soul goes where? Into another
body.
Right. What, within
because your life
2 weeks, 2 months? How long does the soul hang around for?
It varies for different people according to how you've lived your life. The normal thing is to take rebirth straight away. Normal things flow easily in nature. When there's disturbance, that's what causes us disturbance inside. And so, the soul, when you have that awareness of being a soul, gender, colour, age, all those things that separate people and cause duality disappear. So when I go to Africa and talk to an African guy, I don't think he's black and stupid or whatever other people think.
Why would you
think
that?
To me, well, plenty of people do, come on.
Yeah, white supremacists do.
Yeah. So, but when I deal with them, I just see him as a person,
Yeah. But how's that got to do with the idea that he's a product of also his genetics and his system and his family and lots of different inputs that got, like if he was a yield in an input situation?
This is a lot bigger conversation. And
we should do it some other time?
Yeah. The intricacy of, karma and your body and what it looks like, etc., they're all things which are mapped in the DNA.
You don't see the systems that we grow up in and live around that govern us, that give us opportunities or close them down. You don't see them as vastly important to the way that the soul gets to live?
No, I've never said that.
Well, that's what I thought we were talking about.
No, we're not talking. Being soul conscious means you're aware that the whole world is your family. It also makes you aware that dog's got a soul. You don't cause him sorrow.
Not deliberately.
So, anyway.
No, but if I accidentally hit him because he ran out of...
Yeah, but
No, but I mean, there's accidents, there are accidents. That's
when you're
evolution.
Soul conscious, all those divisions, all those ways of thinking which separate you, which make you scared. Someone's a policeman, he's got a uniform. You see everything physically and you get influenced by it. If you're soul conscious and you can practice that, there's an equality in your vision and there's an equality in your dealing with people, because mentally you don't look down on them. When I go to Subway and talk with the women in there, I'm their equal. Yes. I'm not superior.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything, does it?
Of course it means anything. My attitude affects them and they react according to my attitude.
In other words, what I'm saying is lots of people do that.
Yeah, like a dog. If you're in the wrong mood, a dog picks it up.
A wrong mood or just an upset mood? Because
any mood. They pick up good, bad. They're just radar.
Yeah, but
we're all radar.
I get it. So because remember before, if you fundamentally believe that there's no spectrum, to use the analogy of the rainbow, there's no spectrum of light. If there's no spectrum of suffering, that this is manifestly less worse than this down here, that having your husband or partner cheat on you sexually is manifestly less worse than having your child fall off the side of a boat while you're trying to escape a tyrannical regime. I happen to believe that that is the most offensive, dog shit, piece of shit fuckery that I've ever heard in my life. I find it counterintuitive to the entire evolution of the intellect of the human species as a whole, that we would possibly think that a mother who hasn't lost her who's lost her children is somehow on the same level as a girl whose date's gone wrong on a Friday, who's spewing in the back of a cab. That's just a dog shit bullshit lie, and I don't think most human beings on the planet would give it credence, but I'm not most human beings. If you posit, and I can't prove it to you, but if I could prove it to you, your theory on life is not true, that there is no soul, and that when we die, our body dies, our intellect gets shut down, and it just becomes yet another expression of all the different forms of life that ever grew in the bacterial and viral cultures of this planet, opportunistically, chance, and underpinned by the maths and physics of the universe, which by definition it all is. And if I could therefore prove to you that there was no soul that became residual in any way, which is essentially Professor Brian Cox's thesis, that it's once and once only, as Rainer Rilke Werner said, for once and once only for all living creatures. If you accepted that as a proposition, and if you accepted that therefore you were only getting one shot at life, and that your shot at life in an ideal world that humans could create if they chose to, if only they weren't so invested in murdering each other in the male patriarchal system with resources and oil and war fights and the constant thug, inhumane Neanderthal behaviour that the patriarchy carries on with. If you were to think that you could change that, if you were to think that nothing in this life has anything to do with any other life before it, because I know it doesn't. I saw my mother suffer Parkinson's disease. She didn't come from some residual being a piece of dog shit somewhere else. It just happened as a biological...
How do you know what she did in her last birth?
She didn't have a last birth.
How do you know that?
I happen to know that.
No, you don't.
Okay, I said before that
and
I
you
didn't.
disagree with a lot of people that are quite intelligent, including Einstein's and so on.
Einstein didn't believe in reincarnation.
Yes, he did. He was a vegetarian as well.
No, he can be a vegetarian without believing in reincarnation. He just doesn't want to hurt other animals.
Read a bit more about Einstein.
Yeah, but he's not the only exemplar of an amazing human being on the planet. And of course, his wife, who was also a mathematician, never got any credit for her part of the important work. But anyway, the point of it is that, and she didn't, before he ran off with his fucking cousin. The point of it is that even I already said to you that there's no way I can prove to you my point, and there's no way you can prove to me your point. I mean, we're both unable to do that.
It's not a question of proof. It's a question of living that life and showing people that actually that attitude, well, what's the attitude that you've got? How come you don't get disturbed at that? How do you deal with that, etc.? Basically, they're the conversations I have with those women in Subway, talking about, their boyfriends.
And what conversations do you have with yourself?
All of those.
So when
I'm always measuring first of all, for me, a great measure of where I'm at is happiness. If I'm not feeling happy, like I've experienced, long extended periods of being just blissed out, just wandering around the farm, just playing with the horses, the dog, etc. Simple stuff, but brings incredible amount of happiness. And when I think about that, you feel that energy going, that frequency going through your body, there's a transformation, because automatically I'm more empathetic. I have more consideration of others, their perspective, and it's just uplifting. Basically, It's uplifting.
But you're in
many things can be downlifting, as in, a downer. It's like, and I don't want to go there. I'm not interested in anger. See, being a guy and, people say you get old, you get cranky, etc. So anger's an issue for a lot of people. It's not really an issue for me. I don't go overboard. But even small amounts, I don't like the feeling of...
Yeah, the irritation.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Compared to my normal peaceful state.
Mind you, you are in a blissful position of being in a completely war-free part of the world, in a lovely environment where nothing's going to hurt you down the street. You've got a social welfare net, and you never had kids, so you don't have to worry about anyone beyond yourself.
Hang on, and I've made my bed, and I'm lying in it. So you can't say, oh yeah, you've got this life and that life. I've got this life and that life because I made it.
Not everyone got to. That's my
Everyone
whole...
gets a chance to make their own
No, they don't.
life. Yes,
That's
they
bullshit.
do.
Not a little child sitting in a genocide over in India or Myanmar or
I thought
Palestine.
we were
No,
just
they
talking
don't.
about mature adults.
No. This is
Well, that's what
gets
I'm
to the
talking
fundament of it, which is why I said I was so shocked when I heard David Walsh say something like, "Oh, those kids are." Well, I can't, because I didn't have a tape recorder and there was no one else except he and I present. He would have to correct me on what he thought that he said or what he meant that I got wrong or whatever. But the point of it is I can't replay it because there wasn't a video camera on, and there's a fucking video everywhere now, only if it's rolling. I can't prove what he said, but it was words to the effect of a similar idea that, even those children are creating their reality to some degree. And I had to stop at that point because I just thought, to what... Like, here's a manifestly intelligent person, far more than me, but on all evidence alone, an extraordinary giant intellect, and I can't match anything to do with his insight into mathematics and physics and the way the universe works. But what a preposterous supposition that any child is free from their genetic what was conferred on them by their DNA, what was conferred on them by the love or lack of it, or anything in between by either or both of their parents, or none, but no parent or anyone around them. There's so many things that go into that admixture of being a human being,
Of course.
that you couldn't possibly just conveniently park it by going, God, or whoever she is, somehow in the background went that even though you lived for 80 years and you were a nice person for 15, and then you turned into a cunt for 20, and then you became a nice person again, and then you tried to redeem yourself as a rapist because you found Jesus in jail, and then you shot some people in between, and then you did some heroin, but then you were really nice to your daughter because you left her all your will. Well, where are you taking the measure of, you're a good soul, you're a bad soul, you came into this life and you're a good soul and a bad soul? Well, fucking good, bad what? Good, bad compared to the guy who thinks he's doing a good job of murdering your sister because she got raped and she fucked up their family by being raped. He's a good guy in his world. He's a really fucking good guy under the patriarchy. So it doesn't feed into any legitimacy of the idea that the soul somehow just magically...
They don't fit into my society, I can tell you that.
But they are here, so they have to fit into someone.
Of course they're here. There's fucking tigers in India. There's none here.
And they kill people.
The point is, there's heavy-duty things everywhere. You don't have to be interconnected with it.
No, but hippopotamuses kill a lot of people and we don't hate them.
We're talking about
Deloraine
and people and
talking
wrong
about
attitudes. I'm not interested in associating with the type of people that you always describe.
I'm not talking... always describe. I'm actually talking about people who live in other countries to me, because I happen to be in one of these beneficent, amazingly lucky places where we genocided the oldest races on Earth and we somehow got to still be here, and it's nice and peaceful and no one's warring at us right now. And oil's just gone to $3 and blah a litre. I just happen to be the product of a multitude of millions of inputs around me, and my genetic composition and my environment that I got brought up in, and what fortunately or unfortunately or anything in between happened to me along the journey. To quote John Lennon, life's what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. So while I was busy making other plans for my eventful and, more importantly, non-eventful but achieveful life, which didn't happen, and then had everything stolen who I loved, I'm still of the bearing that I can sit here and talk, or attempt to ask and talk and have some sort of dialogue with somebody who believes something radically different from me. In this case, that's you. And I believe something radically different, which is that that's a bunch of horseshit. If ever I heard it, you may as well believe in God. If you think that your soul's going somewhere, good luck with that. Where are you going to measure your great fucking behaviour if you were made to be a child murderer, like a friend of mine who did that painting over there, Saquon Tran?
If you do good karma, you don't become a child.
But you do both. People do both in their life. You don't just do one.
Both what? Killing and not killing?
No. Well, that's your measure, but there's lots of other things that you can do.
I've never mentioned killing before. I don't.
No, but the people,
normal.
but on the great well, breaking news. There's been a lot of wars and murders in history. It's kind of normal. Not to us, it isn't, but in most other places on the human race, it's been for a long while. It's not, where are you going to take the measure of a person if you're going to think that there's what's out there looking at the soul and measuring whether he or she gets to go into a better life or a worse life? It just sounds like God to me.
No, I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
You can stop there. You can stop mentioning God. I don't believe
So
in
who's
God.
measuring, and where are they measuring at? What's
It's a
measuring?
natural process. What does nature measure when there's so much pollution and then it reaches a level where things can't reproduce? It's not you calculating and going, oh, there's too much sodium in here or too much. Nature automatically compensates and does the thing. So with bad behaviour, what's going on here?
Bad to who?
Hang on, you never let me finish.
I heard you.
You've got to stop that. I can't continue my line of thought.
You said bad behaviour, and I'm like, bad to who? Is the bad guy when he murders his sister for being raped? Is he bad because in his mind and all of his male mates, he's fucking great?
No, he's
bad
not.
To who?
No. You think that those dead shits feel okay about doing that stuff?
Pretty sure.
Nah, they're troubled beings. Do you think they get peace? Do you think they get happiness?
I hope not.
They can't.
Well,
they can't.
That's a very generous interpretation.
It's not a generous interpretation. Fucking talk to those dead shits.
Have you?
Yes, of course I have. Oh, my favourite young boys in utes. They're not happy. Girlfriend, drugs, this, that, new wheels on the ute. Their world is scrambled and there's no principle.
But they'll never write a symphony. They were never going to.
Nah, of course. Well, everyone has a capacity.
Do you think?
Their own personal capacity.
Do you think?
Of course they have. Everyone's got a capacity.
So that goes back to my first principle, is that if we could create a world of opportunity where everyone's potential was exploited to its fullest potential because we had opportunities for all instead of just money and religion and whether you know.
Yeah.
Aren't we back at the beginning?
But no, we're talking now about, we started off by saying the world's in a certain place, which is not good. Doesn't matter where you look at it. The female thing, oil, whatever you want to say. So I believe that this is the result of all our bad thinking, all the capitalists raping the earth, all the bad action, all the wars, etc. They're getting bigger. If you think the world's getting better, I'm sorry, your intellect's not working.
No,
it's really...
Not like I care, but I didn't say that. I'm
just saying my thing.
Yeah,
I don't have any
connection or what problem with
I'm trying to explain what I feel, and so, you know, this whole world, to put it plainly, it's fucked.
Yeah.
I hate to say.
Oh no,
I don't hate to say.
I think it's a good note to end on, because not only did we start there in the first place, so it's come full circle. You know, I know people who believe that the earth, who honestly believe that the earth is flat. I really do know those people, and I
know people who believe hollow earth.
Well, there's molten lava in the middle of it, but the point of it being that, and there's probably something else beyond that, but the point of it being, I really do know people who would give you the shirt off their back. And they live equitably and they treat other human beings fairly and kindly, and they believe that the earth is flat. Like, I mean, you know, what does it matter? Like, at that point, you know what matters? You just saw what happened at the door. They're like, you can't talk about what was done to you and your kids, or we're going to shut you down for use of a carriage service. No, because he didn't need to, because the law said that for him, because he said, no, I'm going to keep reading this, because it says, if you intimidate or harass, is it intimidating to you to talk about
protocol.
What? Hang on, but yeah, I get that. I'm not arguing his right to talk to me at the door. It is protocol. I got that, and that's why I kept saying, this is not my first rodeo. I get it. He's like, no, I'm going to do it anyway. So I sat there and filmed it. The point of it being that the fucking dog shit system, if it was a different system where you were allowed to speak about what you said, you must tell the truth. And I agree with you, because I've been unfortunately doing that to my greater detriment all of my life, according to everyone around me. Geez, if you'd only not tell the truth and shut up for once. Both of them, by the way, they're not the same thing. If only you'd do both of those things, it'd be easier or better or different or whatever. The point of it is, I'm compelled. There's something in me that, whether you call it the soul, I just call it my DNA. But there's something that refuses. We got to tell the truth, and so you tell the truth, and then in this system you get the law on your ass because of it.
So what?
What, you think I should go? You think I should take a walk for the so what?
So what? I've had cops, AVOs and stuff.
So what, I should have to suffer more for talking about the truth?
Mind. I don't care when it's not right.
Yeah, I know it's not
I
right.
don't care. I'm not going to fight it because it's bullshit.
So just go to court and go, yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That's what I did the last time. I just went,
that's
yeah,
right.
I said all that.
Well, thanks.
That's exactly what I said. Last time I just said to him, yeah, I actually did say that. Yep, there it all is. And what's the problem? Well, you're not allowed to. And I said, well, I fucking did. So it's like you can't talk about your real true feelings. Happens.
It's the stuff they get.
Oh, who cares? But oh yeah. So what? We're not going to say Putin fucking bombed Ukraine, and we're not going to say that Trump fucking caused what? Like we're not going to name people. Of course, you're going to name people because that's them.
The coffee is reacting with my kidney.
Oh, that's okay. Do you want another one or not? Because we'll wrap it up. I'm going to say goodbye. Don't go into the toilet. Bye. Just wave at the camera. Thank you so much for your time.
I have urgent biological
I know I did
considerations.
needs. See you. Thank you.
Thanks,
I don't know how to
Danielle.
turn it off. I don't know how to turn it off. It's all right. We're still here. I think we are. Let me turn it off somewhere else. How do we not go live anymore? Look at this stunning day that those dog shit people who kept my children from me never allowed my children to see. You'd have to think they're miserable pieces of dog shit to have done that to children. Shame on them. I hope that there is a soul. I hope that there is a soul, Damo. I hope everything you said is true. But I doubt it. Go to a bumblebee while I work out how the hell to turn this thing off. Are you sure that you want to stop streaming?